Of City Council for Monday, November 18th to order. The City of Dawson Creek acknowledges that we are privileged to live and work on Treaty 8 territory in the traditional home of the Cree, Danizé, Saulteaux, Sicanee, and Slavey First Nations. We value the Métis people that live and gather here. We commit to upholding the respectful relationships these nations have built with the land, and we acknowledge our responsibility to carry that forward today and into the future. First order of business is 2 delegations. 2.1, we have Fiona Nguyen with the Adoption and Guardianship Team Leader, Ministry of Children and Family Development in attendance regarding Proclamation to declare November 2024 as Adoption and Permanency Awareness Month in Dawson Creek. So, Fiona. Oh, she just snuck out for a second. That's my fault for starting on time, so we weren't ready.
Well, maybe you go through the whole thing again.
Yeah. I enjoy waiting for you, Councillor Parslow.
Ryan could do a dance here or something. Like a fancy
A picture that
Morning, Melissa.
Sudnick brought, I thought you could explain the differences between the original and what got built.
I think that the facilitator at the time would do an exceptional job of that.
Morning, Fiona. Morning, welcome. So whereas adoptive families and permanent families in British Columbia provide children with the love and support of permanent family. And whereas the City of Dawson Creek wishes to recognize the care, compassion, and unselfish commitment of British Columbia's adoptive families and permanent families. And whereas there continues to be a need for adoptive families and permanent families to nurture the growth and development of children, especially those with support needs. And whereas there is a need to remind the people of British Columbia that many children, teens, and siblings groups in the province are waiting for adoption for permanency. Now, therefore, I do hereby proclaim November 2024 as Adoption and Permanency Awareness Month in Dawson Creek. So,
thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, I believe this speaks for itself. I mean, those that go above and beyond to help children and families that are in need, it's, it's...
We are very thankful for the
everything.
wonderful families that have opened up their hearts and their homes to the living care.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely amazing. So, was there anything that you wanted to
No.
speak to? No.
Sorry, I don't have a speech today. I'm
Yeah,
coming
no,
in the
that's
stead of
fine.
somebody. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you very much for coming in, and
Yeah,
I
thank
think
you.
Natalie will get a picture.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, our next order of business is 2.2. We have Alan Tonn, Chief of Operations with the South Peace Search and Rescue in attendance regarding a request for financial support. So, welcome, Alan.
Thank you. Not to wipe anything out on my way up.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Why don't you just sit there, Alan? Just on the mic, there's a button. If you push the button, and then you can just bring that mic towards you. Yeah, perfect. And welcome. And I guess before you get started, just wanted to congratulate you and Search and Rescue on your award at the Community Awards. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I appreciate Mayor, Council, staff for allowing us to attend. Apologize we didn't make the last appointment. Things kind of got busy, I suppose, is the right word. I ended up getting sucked into the management team, running both the Crown Birch and the remote managing the Red Fern Search all the same time. Just say thank you for Starlink. Like, I started 30 years ago out of the back of a pickup truck, and we had some paper maps and 3 radios. And, I think they were about as effective as a cup and string. And to see where we are now is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So my intent today is more to, let council and staff know who Search and Rescue is in your community, and kind of what we do and how we're built up and how we're made, as well as how we're funded, to give you everybody some more information on that kind of stuff. So So our team was formed as a society in 2006 in its current fashion. There has been search and rescue here in town for about 25 years, but in 2006, a member of the Peace River Regional District, as well as a member of the City of Dawson Creek, formed an attempt to do both ESS and search and rescue. In 2007, they became a registered society for South Peace Emergency Response Team. About 3 years after that was when Emergency Management BC took away ESS and made it a responsibility of municipal government. So the ESS volunteers became staff for city volunteers, and just search and rescue came to be. So we're comprised of about 26 active members at the time of the slide. I think we gained about 4 more in the last couple weeks. So we've got 3 auxiliary staff that actually don't go out in the field. We're now up to 5 search managers and 5 team leaders. The rest make up our ground searchers, so about 14 ground search and rescue members that are actually out in the field, as well as our mapping tech and RIP, our canine friend. So I'm not sure where I have to point. There it goes. So South Peace Search and Rescue itself our area is about 7,901 square kilometers. So we border the Kiskatna River to the north, the Alberta border to our west. And there's kind of a weird, muddy line off between Highway 52 and Highway 59 that depends on what RCMP detachment arrives to the call, depends on whose area it is. So our search area is primarily the same as the responsibility of the RCMP detachment here in Dawson Creek. So if it's if it's their call, we have the lead on that one. Most of our terrain is pretty mountainous, heavily forest, and fairly remote. So in saying that, as far as our border, we have an ongoing relationship with the other 3 search and rescue teams in the Peace River Regional District. So Chetwynd, Tumbler Ridge, Fort Nelson, giving us access to their resources as well as ours. And then we also have access to the provincial resources as well. So basically search and rescue teams from anywhere in the province of BC should be able to come into town and integrate with our team in the field. So we're BC Search and Rescue in British Columbia is certified and kind of mandated through the Ministry of Emergency Management and Climate Readiness. We're what they call a public lifeline safety volunteer. So we're not exactly a 911 service. In BC, all ground search and rescue is 100% volunteer run and is all made up of local community residents. All the teams in British Columbia are affiliated with another association called the BC Search and Rescue Association, or BC SARA for short. They work with EMCR and the local teams to allow us to manage our resources as well as our funding system, which we'll get into a little bit. But primarily the goal is to say what are the capabilities that are required province-wide, what are the needs province-wide, and how do we fill those using the local volunteers, is kind of how that works. AMCR basically provides the governance to say, yeah, you're legally allowed to respond, and they allow our volunteers to have some liability insurance, be covered under WorkSafe BC, and they do provide some cost recuperation from tasks. So in BC, again, public safety lifeline volunteers, we're not 911. You can't pick up the phone and say, hey, 911, police, ambulance, fire, and search and rescue is not in there. So we work under the auspice of the RCMP when it comes to missing persons and some rescues. We can be called in by the fire departments for skill sets they do not have. In areas where there is not fire protection, BC Ambulance uses search and rescue to gain access to patients when they can't. Unfortunately, we do have an agreement, or depends how you look at it, with the BC Coroner Service. So if there is a deceased person where the contractor cannot access them, then we'll go in and do the recoveries. And then, of course, we work with the BC, or with our local government authorities in their state of emergency. Anybody that's been out in the bush here knows from a local standpoint, everything's very hazardous. It's very thick. It's very boggy. The biggest problem we've had over the years, again, is poor communications, which seems to be that thing for everybody. Operationally, we see our costs rising regularly. Communications always takes up the brunt. Again, I sing the praises of Starlink at $140 a month just to maintain internet connection. And as our call volume grows and the requirements from the citizens grow, we're finding the need to replace our equipment and to buy better equipment has increased. Again, our original 6 radios, we were really angry that they were about $300 a piece. One of our guys dropped one, and the replacement cost on that is $1,500 before tax, and that's a discounted rate now for a new radio. So as a charitable society, operational funds, so the money we use to buy the important things like insurance, gasoline, insurance, is generally done through grants and fundraising. And then, of course, the donations from the community. I will say this community has been incredibly supportive over the years. I came up from Vancouver Island, and there's definitely a larger sense of community here than there was down there. We do receive, I think it's on here on the next slide. It's really hard to see. I apologize. So generally speaking, we do receive in 2006, the province of BC did a proclamation of $6 million, or just shy of $6 million for search and rescue across British Columbia, which sounds amazing until you divide it over 78 teams, you fund BC Adventure Smart, BC SARA, and pay some staff wages. It does cover our rent, which is great. We do receive some funding from the Peace River Regional District, which thankfully does cover our commercial vehicle inspections as well as our insurance and our gasoline for the year. We do struggle with those day-to-day operational expenses. It's very easy to go out and get a grant to buy something cool. It's very hard to go to your local oil and gas company and say, boy, I really need a donation because I want to put gas in my truck. That's probably our biggest struggle, is our day-to-day operational needs, and that includes training as well. We just recently did hover exit training, which is a mandate yearly, and that is a nice $6,000 bill we have to fundraise every year. So right now, like I say, our funding that we do receive from local governments, about 46% of our funding. Our operational costs are about 64% of our operational budget, meaning we don't actually take in enough revenue without fundraising to actually sustain ourselves through the year. So we do have, like I say, a lot of reliance on donations, businesses and communities, and thankfully it is good here in town. So basically, how can you guys help? Long-term agreements for a structure to get us out of paying rent would be incredibly helpful. I understand, and the city staff has worked with that. At this point in time, there's no building, but one day is we can dare to dream. And then, of course, any kind of mutual aid, memorandum of understandings, like we have in other municipalities, to entertain funding sources, of course, will always be welcome. And I was close. I thought I talked.
Right
Close.
on the time. Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Ellen. And for, thank you to yourself, but also your whole volunteer group and what you guys do for our community and the region, really. So thank you. I'll open it up to council first for questions. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the delegation for attending. Very good to see you, and thank you for the work you do, and also kudos for maintaining such a robust volunteer base over the years. That's not something that's easy for nonprofits in this day and age. Yeah. So if you've got some secrets and tricks you'd like to share, I think a number of people would be happy to hear it. So facility-wise, have you, prior to this presentation, had conversations with our staff about the nature, what the logistical needs of a facility would be, or what would be suitable?
We absolutely have. Yeah, staff here at the city have been great in helping us with that. Basically, because we're looking at total of 3 pickup trucks and a command trailer. Ultimately, we're looking for multiple bays to get our vehicles inside. I know when I first moved up here, our vehicles were outside, and there was nothing quite like having BC Ambulance Dispatch phone you at minus 20 something and saying, "Where are you guys?" And you're trying to jump start the rescue truck because the diesel won't start at that temperature. So we have talked to them. At this point in time, to my understanding, there's nothing really suitable that's open at this time. So it's just kind of something over the long term that we're hoping to keep working with the city on.
Okay. I guess the follow-up would be, so through the Peace River Regional District, we would be part of the contributors of that. I think it was 19% of funding. Have you also approached the regional district about, through all of us together, increasing that stipend to help pay for a facility? Because this does strike me chiefly as a regional function we should all be kicking in for. And if there's an increase to what's required, we should be.
There's currently funding through, I believe it's Function 300. I believe it's where it's tucked in, and that's managed through the EEC, the Emergency Executive Committee through the Peace River Regional District. The regionally, I think the big problem is all our teams are currently struggling. The only team right now that has a permanent home funded by a municipality is North Peace, and that was through an agreement, a rental agreement with the City of Fort St. John. Tumbler Ridge does have some space they share with the fire department, but again, primarily their vehicles are outside. It's always a tough one at that point because, where do you fund? Because we say, it's regional, and I agree it's regional because most of our calls are outside the city limits. However, when you look at our call volume, from their perspective, 95% of our call volume is City of Dawson Creek residents. So it's quite a weird balance.
So just for my own clarification, then, Tumbler Ridge and Chetwynd each have their own search and rescue?
Correct. Yeah. So there's a team in Tumbler Ridge, there's a team in Chetwynd, and there's a team in the North Piece.
Okay. And what are they called?
Fort St. John.
South Peace Search and Rescue.
So we're South Peace.
Okay.
Yeah. So we cover essentially.
Kiskatna to the border.
Kiskatna down. Yeah. Yeah. Tumbler Ridge is generally primarily the district Tumbler Ridge up until about the summit of the range, and then again the Alberta border. Chetwynd is, I believe, I think it's just south of the Murray.
Okay.
And then out to the summit of the Pine Pass, and then about 3/4 of the way up to Hudson's Hope, and then North Peace Search and Rescue out of Fort St. John does cover the rest. Yeah.
Okay, that was my mistake. I would have assumed it was all under one umbrella. For the South Peace.
No, it just becomes too large of an area.
Okay. And have you gotten any up to this point a budget together or any prospective sites, locations you were looking at, or are you still kind of in the?
We're still very at the preliminary stages with this. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's everything I have for now. I guess just thank you once again for coming in, and it was a very interesting presentation.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any questions? Councillor Parslow.
Not a question, but if the city was to get on with replacing the existing fire hall, which has been in the books for quite a few years, that facility would be ideal, wouldn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Anything similar, if you can imagine a fire hall, is an ideal situation. I think our longest apparatus would be about 52 feet long. That would be the truck and trailer combined. So currently we're in in a 2-bay garage with a truck kind of wedged in the middle. And luckily, it's a local businessman that owns that property, and I'm pretty sure he takes a loss every year on his rent. I think we cover his utilities.
I noticed there's a few facilities that are for sale in industrial parks. So they're for the support for the oil industry, but they're different companies. So that sort of shed would be not as good as an old fire hall, but a place to store equipment and vehicles. Presumably they have some offices there, so that sort of thing might be a possible viable purchase option.
Yeah, absolutely. Purchase options are always great. Unfortunately, as a nonprofit society, we cannot carry a mortgage, which means we would have to put the mortgage into our board's personal names. Again, I've been a volunteer for 30-odd years, but I'm not signing a mortgage for this poor team. So it does put nonprofits in a fairly tough place. So again, what we did down on in the coast, again, it was an old fire hall the city of Nanaimo had. They purchased the fire hall. They owned the land already, and we entered into a memorandum of understanding that essentially said we'll pay rent, which covered the utilities. We would take care of the building for a period of 25 years, and they would own the building, and of course they would keep the capital gain from the profit, because land is always going up. In the city of Fort St. John, North Peace has just entered into an agreement where they bought a facility that was an expansion. So they're using, I think their welding shop or sign shop, I'm not entirely sure, works out of half the building, and the other half is just a big open bay. Like you say, it was an industrial site that's used by them. And again, they pay a rent to cover the building costs, and they take care of the cleaning and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Just one question. It is not specific to this search and rescue, but and I'm not saying that this sort of thing happens here, but the thing that always gets a bit of a reaction from me when people in the North Shore, as an example, go out of bounds, don't leave proper information on their routes and stuff, that I always wonder why they're not charged for the service. Is that ever discussed in your circles? Where somebody has been obviously irresponsible?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's discussed. However, we're definitely strongly opposed. If you can imagine, should the person that was incredibly silly and rode their bike into a lagoon just because be charged for the fire department? The concern is if we start charging these people for search and rescue, the people would not call for search and rescue. We'll pick the last one we had out. We were out there for 5 days. We had a helicopter airborne for every day for at least 8 hours. At $3,000 an hour, that's why the province covers that bill.
Well, just to add that, then, do they ever make a donation in thanks for this service that you've given?
The residents?
The people who you've rescued, yes.
Oh, absolutely. We had one gal who's quite famous. She went missing last year for berry picking, and she was from the Baytree colony. And we were eating pie and homemade honey for probably 6 months. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Nice. Any other questions? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. First, thank you. The services your volunteers provide to the region are second to none. Putting your own lives at risk to protect the rest of us, right, is very noble, and we are all very thankful for it. As far as communications go, I don't know, and maybe more to staff. We just replaced our fire hall's radios. Would that be something that would be applicable for search and rescue? Is that a donation we could make to them, our old radios?
So through your worship, we transitioned to digital, and we're still in that transition, working with North Island, I believe, because talking with the fire chief, there is still some issues with that. But our older radios being analog is probably not what they would need.
Yeah, that's very true.
Not good
So,
enough.
Shouldn't say it's not good enough. We do run a fair number of analog radios. Shell Canada and Petron Communications have donated access to the CatMax system. So this allows us to key up a mic here in Dawson Creek and talk to a team in Fort Nelson, which is amazing. So again, when we were out in Ground Birch on that search, we actually had radio communications with the team in the field in Fort Nelson. So that's definitely the direction we'd like to continue to go. And unfortunately, just with some inside knowledge from my other job, if you will, most of the fire department radios running analog now don't. It's a different type of digital.
Right.
They're currently running the P25, which is a emergency services type of standardization, which is coming across Canada. We're currently working with a vendor specific, just due to cost. Ours are around $1,500 a radio, and I think the fire departments do cost a little more than that. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It was a good idea.
not too bad.
Do appreciate
Anyways,
it.
thanks so very much.
You're
and
welcome.
next time we'd love to see the puppy.
Yeah, I'm not even sure where Rip is today. I know the handler is not happy with life today. He is down on the North Shore for his work, doing a avalanche awareness course, and he sent me an image of him hip deep in snow, and he's not happy. Yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Tonn. Any other questions? No. I had a few. I just, and obviously thank you for the presentation and lots of great information there in education. So the regional district, I know they have, I think it's through Function 300, you're correct, and I know it's a certain pool and there's a lot of people that apply for it. But besides that, has there been any dialogue with the area directors that are directly in the South piece?
Yeah, so we do have a fair amount of support with Chair Hebert. As well. We've talked to him a number of times. We're working on some other projects with him as well as with the village of Puskupi for one of their projects, helping them with some grant side of things. For some funding. Yeah, so there's definitely dialogue there. Yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of the village of Puskupi, do they contribute outside of the regional district to the South piece?
In the past, we actually lived, our equipment lived in Puskupi rent-free for a number of years. Our equipment used to be on the compound. Now their public works staff actually, when we do our emergency vehicle training, they provide us the ability, they can shut roads down for us and that kind of stuff. So not a lot of monetary support, but definitely we get a fair amount of support from the village,
Where is your current location at? I can't picture where it is, but I know I've seen it. So.
Oh, yeah, we are, as you head north towards Fort St. John, we're in we rent a building down in that farm where the big pole shed burnt down a few years ago.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we always give the directions that as you're going out of town, you pass all the industrial stuff, and you see that big giant sign that the religious sign, and turn left. That's us.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, just off the highway.
Perfect. And then just so I'm clear, so later on under number 11, we'll deal with the delegations and we'll kind of go through the requests. But just so I'm clear, your ask to the city is to work with the city on a potential facility or structure
That would be ideal, yeah. A structure or some form of memorandum for support from the city
in a funding aspect.
To help us pay for the rent on a facility.
Okay,
Yeah.
so the two. And then was there a certain dollar value that you were had in mind, or it was just kind of more to see if the city's willing to work?
That's more to the stage where we're really at that initial stages, and I'm well aware that to delegate staff time to work with us does originate with you here at the council. Again, just to give you an offset, right now we're triple net at $2,000 a month. We were recently, which is amazing. We were recently offered a larger space, so we just can't come up with the funds to rent rent a
Yeah.
larger structure at this time.
Yeah, no, that's understandable
Yeah.
for sure. So, okay, I think that's good. I don't, Kevin, was there anything on your side that you, any questions you have or no? Okay. Yeah, once again, thank you for coming in, and also just wanted to congratulate you again for the
Yeah, thank you.
Nonprofit of the Year award, and definitely well deserved. So congratulations
Yeah,
to
thanks so
yourself
much.
and the team, and yeah, and we'll talk about this later on. I mean, like Councillor Earl said, I mean, we fund the regional district as well, so
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
there
I'm
is
aware,
that.
yeah.
So we'll definitely take a look at this.
Perfect.
And,
No, I
let
appreciate
you know.
everybody's time. Thank you.
This one, Councillor Parslow.
You bet.
Do you want to push your button?
Here. The airport, what's that? I say, well, maybe if there are possibilities at the airport, what would be your reaction to that? Is that too outside of, it would be ideal, or?
The airport actually presents some really unique opportunities in that it's got really good highway access. So one of the biggest things I know, for example, we have now is coming off to go left onto the Alaska Highway without our lights on is near impossible. As everybody that lives on the Alaska Highway. So yeah, absolutely. The airport does have some great opportunities. Yeah.
I have no idea of the capacity for vehicles, but I'm just thinking, of course, staff would fill us in on this, but that tower, I know some of it's used, but I don't know if all of it's used for some of the functions that you have, but we'll leave that to later on. Thank you.
Oh, the training center. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Perfect. Well, thank you very
Thank you
much for
again.
coming, Ellen, and please pass on our thank you and congratulations to the whole team. So, excellent. Thanks. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. For a bit.
Yeah, you bet. You're welcome to.
opportunity to take a day off work.
It's
Yeah.
it's usually good entertainment.
Yeah. Councillor Parslow keeps us on our toes, so it can be pretty entertaining sometimes. Next order of business, 2.3, we have Taylor Mills, Executive Director with the South Peace Art Society, in attendance regarding the 2024 annual mural report. So welcome, Taylor, and it was nice to meet you, and welcome to the community. So if you just push that button, I will turn mic on. There you go. The floor is all yours.
Right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to provide the 2024 annual mural report and also touch base a little bit on the South Peace Art Society. There we go. All right, so the South Peace Art Society is a cornerstone for arts and culture here in the Peace Country and is a central gathering place where people from all communities can come together and are welcome to create, share, develop, and exchange artistic and creative knowledge, experience, and skills. So essentially, our goal is to make the gallery a hub. So when we think about the Dawson Creek Art Gallery, it's hard not to think about our commitment to fostering lifelong relationships with the arts and building artistic literacy. So to ensure that we are doing that, we have 4 core programs that I would like to highlight today. Firstly, we have our curated exhibitions that you see throughout the year, and that is provided by Kit Vast. He plans them in advance and has them ready to go. We also have our consignment shop, which highlights various local artists in the gallery, and that is maintained by our administrative manager, Caitlin McNabb. We also have our youth education program, which offers artistic literacy, creativity, problem solving, and as well as social and emotional skills to the youth in our community, and that is taught by Amanda Ennedy. And finally, we have our framing department that provides a very important community service, and that is run by Paige Fortier. However, today we're here to talk about the mural project and specifically for the year of 2024. So for this year, the Dawson Creek Art Gallery focused on 2 significant murals, which were the Casioka and Smart Building West Side mural with approximately $3,000 in expenses, and the Ravelli Building, mural, which started painting production at the end of September. While the Casioka building was targeted for summer completion, unfortunately the Ravelli building faced some delays and is expected for completion in spring of 2025, might go into the summer depending on weather. So weather permitting, we're hoping to get it done in the spring. This year's project successfully expanded artist involvement, bringing in 7 community-level apprentice artists from varying backgrounds who each received an honorarium for their work. These artists contribute diverse skill levels and perspectives, further enhancing the cultural richness of these murals. So going into 2025, we have a few goals and objectives. So firstly, we want to continue enhancing and maintaining the murals, including finishing the Revelli building mural in the spring of 2025, addressing the safety concerns at Aubert, and setting up regular inspections to ensure that all murals are maintained. Secondly, we have a goal to expand and engage our community through partnerships with property owners and recruiting diverse artists, including apprentices as well. And finally, we are going to strengthen partnerships and sustainability through collaborations with community stakeholders to gather input on mural designs, safety improvements, and program expansions. With that being said, I would like to highlight this year's artist who brought these murals to life in 2024, Wayne LaRiviere. So Wayne is a Métis Cree descent artist who is known for his multidisciplinary approach to art. With a deep connection to his Indigenous roots, Wayne has collaborated with some of Canada's leading Aboriginal theatres, artists, and actors, further enriching the cultural landscape through his work. Wayne's artwork is a celebration of both his heritage and the natural world, and creating pieces that evoke a sense of storytelling and cultural pride. We were very honored to have Wayne this year as our lead artist, and we are in awe of his creations. So if you have a chance, take a look. You'll find them here in Dawson Creek. However, this project would not have been possible without our funder, the City of Dawson Creek. We would like to extend our heartfelt thank you to the city for its generous support of the mural project. And with your funding, we can bring these vibrant artworks to life and have a profound impact on our community. These murals serve as a symbol of our shared history, culture, and diverse stories that shape Dawson Creek. This is not simply a visual expression of artistic creativity, but it's also a beautiful example of how public art can foster dialogue, community pride, and as well as connection. Again, we are deeply grateful for the City of Dawson Creek and their commitment to arts and culture. Through this program, we are able to enrich our town with pieces of public art that will be enjoyed for generations to come. So, for this year, I'm here today to request a release of $5,000 in fees to cover the current costs associated with the Casioca and the Revelli building at this time. These funds are essential to support the ongoing expenses and operations tied to the project. Additionally, we do request that the remaining funds be released upon completion of the project in the spring, in alignment with our new timeline due to the unforeseen delays. All right. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Perfect. Thank you, Taylor. Thanks for the presentation. Thank you. I will open it up to council for questions. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you, Taylor. It's good to see you again, and glad to see you pick up the ball and keep running with it.
Thank you.
So, and I'll probably, when it comes back under mayor's business, I'll ask staff for more information about this, what the schedule of releasing the funds are and what have you. I don't, okay. That seems fairly well explained in the presentation, but any additional information. So is the Revelli, just for my own, to remind myself, is the Revelli building the final mural, or is it just for the year and then we've got more? Okay, yeah.
Yes, that's just for 2024. We have, I believe 4 more years of funding for different murals throughout the city.
Okay. And just for, I guess, my own curiosity, when you mention apprentice artists, what does that entail? Is that like an official program, or is that just kind of an unofficial name for people who are working under an established artist?
Yeah, it's basically an unofficial name. It's something we're trying to establish. So we get a lead artist, and they will lead the program, and then we recruit artists that are wanting to grow their skills and add to the community as a whole. And from that, they'll get a certificate. So it's something we're building, but it's not completely established yet.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Other questions? Oh, I didn't see your light. Hey? No, I'm just... Councillor Parslow.
Just to add to that apprentice, if I may.
Yeah.
it serves also to help build their portfolio.
Yes.
One of the tragedies in this community was the loss of the visual arts program at the Northern Lights College, which served to enable students under excellent instruction to develop their portfolio. So anything we can do to substitute that void, maybe with further developments at KPAC and so on, because Mel Llewellyn presented once that there were 108, I think it was, people who'd gone through arts programs who earned their living from this. They don't live here now, but they are earning their living thanks to the solid platform they had in this community. You mentioned in your presentation public art. Just, I should have asked you this privately perhaps, but now you're here. Did your predecessor pass on to you a draft policy that was to go to council sometime?
For the public art, there was a
Public art acquisition.
Yes, there was a conversation, but I wasn't provided a document. I actually was going to reach out to you and hopefully discuss that further.
Okay.
I'm not fully familiar, unfortunately.
A question to staff. I know Duncan met with our illustrious corporate officer. Do you know where that is? That project?
Through your worship, to Councillor Parslow's question, I believe I may have that document on an email, and I will have a look and see what I can find. And if I do have it, I will share.
So Hayley should get hold of you then. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other questions? And maybe just over to staff, just on the agreement now, like I know it's 4 years or so left. Is it, is this something just annually that the art gallery would come in and give us an update where it's at before funding's released? Is this a requirement of the, do you know that offhand?
So through your worship, I'm not sure if it's a requirement, but I think it's a great opportunity to get an update and have, see where they're at and questions. And
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Okay, thank you. All right. Well, thanks for coming in. Thank you for the presentation, but thank you for this project as well. It's definitely nice to see the transformation and the beautification downtown. And it's been really nice too. Lots of the new art pieces that have been put on buildings, they're putting some lights up too. So it's like I know the Casioka and Smart building, like it's well lit, that artwork on the outside, and it's it just becomes like just a nice focal point downtown. So we definitely appreciate seeing it. Obviously, the work of Wayne, and I met a few of them this summer that were in, and some of the apprentices. So it's just amazing to see the art community come together to work with the community to benefit it. So so thank you, and thanks for coming in. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, you're welcome. Have a great day.
You as well.
Thank you. Next order of business, 2.4, we have Ann Pearson, Program Director with the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living in attendance regarding a request for financial support for the Urban Senior Service Program. Welcome, Ann. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Just want to say I've been with the agency for approximately 25 years. So this is new and dear to my heart, providing funding for seniors. So I'll just read what I have here. So Dawson Creek Society for Community Living was founded in 1958. So we're in our 66th year. And we continue to strive to meet the growing and changing needs of people with disabilities and seniors through the provision of outstanding services, education, advocacy, and diversification of resources. Our services cover a wide and diverse group of people in the community. In the past, our services mainly were to support adults with diverse needs. We currently include seniors in many different programs, as well as housing options for low-income people. We acknowledge the contributions of seniors living within and around our community and strive to support them to remain as independent as possible for as long as possible. Our weekly meal call program was started in 2020. We created this program to help seniors in our subsidized housing buildings. We own and manage Rotary Village and Southview. Most residents in our housing are on a fixed income. Considering the rising cost of food and the additional costs of living in a northern community, providing a program to help supplement the nutritional needs of seniors is essential. The goals of this program is to provide health and nutritional services to seniors and to keep them connected through organized social gatherings. It has been both rewarding and challenging to fill this service gap in Dawson Creek. Each kitchen is licensed and set up to provide weekly meals for seniors. Each person signed up has the opportunity to socialize while eating a hearty homemade soup for lunch and then a take-home balanced nutritious meal for supper. Seniors often have a hard time making nutritious meals for one. This program allows for at least 2 meals per week, the lunch and the supper, to help with this. These events have provided opportunities for social inclusion that help reduce loneliness and improve the overall mental well-being of our seniors. As the program has expanded over the last 5 years, community seniors who struggle with income or ability were identified to us. We now deliver approximately 40% of our meals to seniors who live outside of our buildings. Currently, 65 seniors are receiving 130 meals per week from our program for a total of about 6,000 meals per year. In addition, we have a grocery shopping service that we implemented in March of 2020. The goal of our grocery shopping service is to serve homebound seniors who face challenges due to limited family support, inaccessible public transportation, and difficulty with internet navigation. The weekly grocery shopping service addresses these issues by offering a personal phone-based system that allows them to interact with a real person and then have their groceries delivered. We have been active in the community looking to raise money from many sources. The only secure recurring funding we have is a small amount from Northern Health each year. And while we have been able to fund the program over the years, increases in food and labor costs keep us always looking for more. Currently, we are in talks with Puskubi to deliver a similar service for their seniors. We're not asking for money today, but rather support for our program and the city's senior population, and to have a regular amount considered for inclusion in the 2025 budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anne, for your presentation, and also thank you for what you do to help with the seniors, but also more just to thank you to the Society for Community Living for what they do for our community. And they're just an amazing organization, and we're grateful for all of it. So thank you. I'll open it up to Council first. Councillor Parslow.
Good to see you again, Anne. Anne is one of a great team of dedicated people at the Society, who I had the pleasure of being with for so many years. For my colleagues here, this is the within city limits.
Correct.
I think, just in case the council is not aware, this society provides a dynamic program supporting rural residents, which is funded fully through the referendum which passed a couple of years ago. Prior to that, it was funded by Area D Director and Area E Director as an experiment, was hugely successful. Absolutely provides meals and clearing of driveways and housekeeping. So it's a comprehensive program. But there has been a need. Not only is there a need, but there's also a demand. City residents have said, why not us?
Correct.
And there was an opportunity to be all part of this some years ago, but I won't get into that history. But there are people, seniors, who, as you correctly say, who struggle. And not only that, they're isolated as well. And so this serves not only feeding, supporting them in that way, but also social engagement.
That's correct.
So it's a great program. And I think all I can see is its needs are going to be continued and maybe get deeper as we struggle with a variety of things in our nation and our province. So thank you for your continued work, but it's a very good program. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. To add on that too as well, and yeah, it's an unbelievable program, and how much it helps the seniors. But I mean, it's just doing what's right. Like, it's helping those seniors and that deserve that. But I mean, the win of that too is it also allows them to stay in their homes longer, right? So it takes the pressure off of our healthcare and medical system as well. But yeah, it's a real win program. So, Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for the presentation. We echo the sentiments expressed by my colleagues. I appreciate what you guys are doing. Just, I guess, a couple questions about the program. So you mentioned in Dawson Creek you've got 65 seniors.
Correct.
That's in total, and about 40% of those are outside of Society for Community Living facilities, and they're getting stuff dropped. Okay. In order to register for the program, is there any kind of means test or income verification required?
No.
No. Okay.
It's not everybody might be able to afford
Yeah.
the takeout, but it's about the balance of the nutrition of the meals. You know,
Okay.
they're not high salt, they're not fast
Yeah.
food. It's
Okay.
balanced meal for.
Yeah, I was just curious about that because it's something, we when we do any kind of government funded initiative, is it? And I know the RD has been funding theirs for some years now. How many people does that cover, or how many people are they covering right now in the regional district?
In the regional district program,
Yeah.
we have almost 300 seniors signed up for
Okay.
that program, but they don't. Some of them just get snow removal, some of them just get housekeeping, some of them just get meals, some of them get all three. It's up to the senior and what their needs are.
Okay, and so that to me, to have 300 seniors in the regional district, knowing that the population of Area D is about 1,400 people, and the population of Dawson Creek is 12,300, and we've got 65, that suggests to me that the need in Dawson Creek is probably more, but lack of funding is what constrains people from
Correct.
signing up.
Yeah. At this point, based on the funding that we're actively getting from grants and things like that we have to apply for every year, to grow the program would be wonderful, but at this point, there is no means for us to do that. We never say no. We take people in as they come. We started out cooking for 12 seniors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's grown significantly over the 4 or 5 years that we've been doing it here. But we have a small kitchen, and we have one cook, and she's only one person, and so we're every week it's different depending on who signs up, but between 30 and 40 seniors we're cooking for at one location, and then another 35 to 40 at another location. So
Okay.
so it depending on who signs up, it can be 65, it can be 80. So yes, the need is definitely there.
All right. Well, I won't.
It could get bigger. It could get real big. We'd love
Yeah.
that. We would love that, and we would love for seniors to feel like they can have access to a program like this for sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Earl. Councillor Apolonio.
Thank you, Ms. Ann. Nice presentation. Thank you for coming over. Yeah, I just want to ask, I know you're asking for funding as well, but are you accepting any volunteers, for example, just to serve the seniors? Or because you said a while ago that one cook for 30 seniors, are you needing some volunteers at least?
So at this point, because we're mostly a unionized organization, that we have a cook that's a union member. At this point, we haven't had any volunteers, other than some of the seniors in the buildings. They volunteer and help with dishes and things and make dessert sometimes.
Yeah.
It's really building the community within the within the buildings where we do the cooking.
Yeah, I understand because, as I said, I know you're unionized, but we're also serving, for example, like in one of our organization, we normally volunteer for our seniors. We normally have a like lunch every Friday, for example, once a month, and then we just come there just to to serve them, to cook, to wash the dishes, for example.
Yeah.
I know they have limitations for meals, but
I would love to have a chat with you
Oh, yeah,
about that
thanks.
down the road. Sure. Absolutely.
yeah, maybe that's it. And I have. There's a lot of people come, especially coming from a community who loves to volunteer. So
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Apolonio. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, through your worship. You mentioned you do about approximately 6,000 meals a year. Do you have an idea what your average cost per meal is?
Yes. About food. Well, I know the food costs are about $5 a meal.
$5 a meal. And then does that include your packaging or?
No, and I have to pay
Preparation, anything
packaging,
like
and I
that?
have to pay my cook.
Yeah.
I have to do the grocery shopping.
Yes.
And we're very frugal, and we're very good at using everything we purchase, trying to get the sales and the best deals, that kind of thing.
But food alone, you're in around that 30,000 mark?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you for coming in, Anne. And I didn't have many questions. I know you're asking for 2025, just to look at that and obviously potential for an annual contribution to help with that. Do you have like a dollar value that you're?
The program itself is about $70,000 a year to run at this point, which could grow and get bigger and more.
70,000 just for inside the Dawson Creek city limits. That
Yeah.
doesn't include the rural portion of it.
No, we don't. This is the rural stuff's all fully funded. I'm not here for any
Yeah,
rural money.
no.
This is just for the
The
city of
7,000.
Dawson Creek. When seniors come and fill out an application for the Seniors Aging in Place program for the rural seniors, and I say, sorry, I can't help you, except I can bring you a couple of meals a week if you like, and
Yeah.
the seniors that need that.
Okay. And then inside the city limits, are you offering the other services? Or is it just meals to start with?
Just meals at
Yeah.
this point. Better at Home offers they manage housekeeping and snow
Okay.
removal. That's through Better at Home, but they don't do anything, they don't do any fresh meals that we're providing. This is essentially copycatting a Meals on Wheels program, which, lots of cities have.
Yeah.
It would be great if our city helped us with providing that service to the seniors.
Yeah.
It'd be really awesome.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you very much for coming in, and thank you for everything you do. You and Marla and the whole team there it's really a phenomenal team, so we
Great.
appreciate you.
Thank you
and,
very much.
Thank you. Have a
All right.
nice day. I'm just going to call a few-minute break here. Back to order. Our next order of business is 2.5. We had Alex Reschny and Joe Hauber, South Peace Mile Zero Park Society in attendance regarding the pump track and bike track project status update and budget. So, welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your Worship, Mayor Dober, City Council, and City staff, thanks for allowing us to present today on where we are with our bike and pump tracks, including financially. I might take a little longer. I'll use up some of the other people's time. Thank you. The original proposal included the walking trail was about 1.4 million, but we were able to reduce it to 1.25 million, a saving of about 150,000, which was in-kind materials, equipment donated, labor supplies, volunteer workers, and MOPS paying the design plan of about 20,000. The funding and grants along with the city loan will come to just over 1 million if we receive the full 300,000 from NDIT. It's going to be a shortfall of approximately 200,000 to complete the project, including the walking trails. We do need to complete the paving of 140 meters of walking trail that will join the 3 tracks across the park in order to receive the full grant from NDIT, which will leave out the walking trail around the outside of 340 meters to complete. To finish the south half of Rotary Recreation Park in spring, we will be planting 14 to 18 spruce or pine trees, supplying benches, picnic tables, and building the bike skills track, cleaning up dirt piles, landscaping, and of course hydro-seeding grass. We started construction on August the 19th with Velo Solutions crew of 6 showing up and completed the pump track on September 21st, which was 34 days. Other than hydro seeding, which MOPS has looked after, was done October the 7th. And October 30th, Velo Solutions crew of 3 came to assemble parts for the bike skills track and completed it on November the 1st. All the assembled parts are in a tractor pole shed, ready to take to the site in spring for completion of the track. Without receiving any of the $300,000 from NDIT, MOPS will have paid out over $140,000 from our own funds, which leaves us in a very tight situation over the winter. One of the things we did expect but we didn't receive is more support of our local oil-related companies, but thanks to Parallel Projects, Swamp Donkey, and Renco for their help and also the push to make this project happen. If we had not done it when we did, we needed to wait till 2026 as Velo Solutions is already fully booked for 2025. I have visited with approximately 20 plus teenagers and young adults that have either jumped the fence or were about to, and all were excited about the pump tracks. They have been very cordial and accepting when I explained to them why we don't want them in there till the grass is growing. One exceptionally young good rider that was riding the pump track, when I told him how good a rider he was, he stated he has ridden a lot of tracks in Alberta and BC, but this is one of the best he has ridden. We should be very proud of our youth in Dawson Creek for respecting and so proud of the pump track with many fist pumps I've got from him. From our conversation with Amadeo from Velo Solutions, almost every track they built this past summer was vandalized or damaged in some way, which ours has not been hardly touched. The crew from Velo Solutions that were here to assemble parts for the bike track told us of the 19 they built this past summer, Dawson Creek is one of the best laid out ones they helped build and look forward to coming back to build the bike track so they can ride the pump track again. Our future plans for Dawson Creek Recreation Park, we want to still follow our guidelines and developing principles to make it long-lasting, low-maintenance costs, practical to operate, sustainable, inclusive to people of all ages, and bring people together and family-oriented. We do want to add an adult wheelchair-accessible flow-through misting pad for all ages. This pad would be approximately 2,700 square feet plus a 3-foot border of rubber matting or something similar. The smaller one uses 9 cubic meters per hour, and the proposed one would use 16 cubic meters per hour if they're operating. For this, we need a water supply, which I'll get into later. The cost a year ago for the new misting pad was approximately $700,000, and it's likely up 10 to 15%. I'm still waiting for a price of about $800,000. Now, when completed and would operate out of the same sea can as the smaller one, but with its own control panel to eliminate any water wastage. So, if one is turned on, the other one isn't operating. Why a flow-through misting pad, not recirculating splash pad, as both get you wet and cool you down? The cost of upkeep and operating was excessive on our small splash pad. It was costing Malzura Park Society an approximately $50,000 to $60,000 a year over what the city was giving us to operate the small one we had. Revenue we were taking from the RV park, preventing us from upgrading the RV park, and needed maintenance on buildings in Pioneer Village. We also want to add a challenge playground of about 6,500 square feet for 13-year-olds of age and plus, something that is greatly missing in the community. We have built new playgrounds to go with existing or replacing playgrounds, but they're all for 2 to 5 to 12-year-olds. We want to give our teenagers, young adults, something to do to get them off the street. We're hoping to make the Rotary Recreation Park a place the whole family can come enjoy, plus become a tourist attraction for families to come and enjoy extra days in the community. The playground we would go with is the larger one. We know the price of the package is $180,000. What the cost for setup, installation, rubber matting, and landscaping, we don't know. We'd like to have some direction from council if we should pursue to get a firm quote. My guess would be about 2.5 times the package, $450,000, maybe $500,000. We will need a new bathroom change room with the addition of the bike skills and pump tracks, as I'm sure the existing one was built in the 1960s along with the Rotary Lake. Cost of replacement is unknown. Some of the other things we are looking at is some of the shelters to help get people out of direct sunlight. I'm hoping to get the Rotary clubs involved with one shelter where they could apply for grants and help build one. Do we want to do this in 1 year? No, but do we want to keep the site under construction for the next 5 years, limiting access? And no. Some of these projects could be done after the end of the season, before a new season, but it does take planning and coordination. The problem is there's always damage to the grounds that need to be reworked, landscaped, and hydro-seeded. One of the other things we are looking at and improving on is our revenue source of the RV park, which we are getting pricing for. This past summer, we had 5 caravans move from our site to Northern Lights, but still rented Sedaiton Hall for their gatherings. Our sites, the roads, needing more 50-amp outlets with full sewer hookups are in need of major upgrading. Many of the sites were built for trucks with campers or 15 to 20-foot campers, and if you had a 25-foot plus, you were rich. These upgrades will cost between $200,000 to $250,000 from our initial conversations. This past summer wasn't the best for the Rotary Recreation Park, with the late opening due to the new playground build not being ready, with no landscaping started. Then we had a water line breakage that feeds the bathrooms and the misting pad the last week of June, shutting the park down for about 7 to 10 days. And then a water line break about 200 to 300 feet from the first break in early August, a week before construction of the pump track was started, which shut the misting pad and bathrooms down for the season, leaving the playground areas open with a porta potty on location. We only had the misting pad open for approximately 7 weeks instead of the 13 to 14 weeks normally. When it was open on hot days, we would have between 100 to 200 people a day using it, and from my observation, an average of 4 out of every 10 vehicles had Alberta plates. As of right now, we have no water supply for the recreation park misting pad or bathrooms. The only water we have is a water box next to Highway 97, which will work for watering the grass on the new pump tracks. I know the city has promised to get us a new water line, but there's an urgency to get it done early to help get the park open. The other thing I hope the city is continuing to pursue is the safe crossing with activated crossing lights on Highway 97. I have not touched on any of the development of the west side of the creek or extra paved walking trails on both sides of the creek. Our focus is to complete the east side so everyone can have full access without construction. We hope to see the completion of the part of the south half, including the walking trails around the tracks in spring, and the addition of the youth adult misting pad and the 13-plus playground for 2025. The shelters, change bathrooms, walking trails on the east side be slated for 2026, and the west side of the creek 2027. We will continue to reach out to get as much funding as we can, but as I found out this year, it doesn't always come together as promised or planned. But it won't stop us from reaching out to other sources that are available. And thank you very much for that $350,000 loan. It was greatly appreciated, and it's the only thing that's carrying us right now. So,
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Alex. Yeah.
that was fast.
You were off on your timing, though, so.
Oh, I
I don't know, we're going to penalize you now, so.
Tell us about the other side.
Yeah. All right, I will open it up to some questions. Councillor Parslow.
I do have a question too, but essentially that presentation, can a copy be given to staff and to members of council?
It is here somewhere.
Okay.
A copy of all the budget and
So,
the pictures.
so basically, you have listed a number of items that you want council to consider in its budget preparation for 2025, 2026, 2027, correct?
Yes.
There's an absolute urgency about having a water line installed so that we can operate that part this next summer, correct?
Yeah, and hopefully before the 1st of June,
Right.
if it's possible. Right now, it's not.
Where does the new bathroom fit in your, let's say, 2025, 2026, 2027?
2026.
2026, that's listed, is clearly about the date?
I don't have any pricing. I haven't even.
No, well, that's,
That would be a city project, but yeah, it is. I put it in for 2026 because the one we have right now, hate to say it, but there is some cracks developing in the cinder bricks and stuff, and
yeah, yeah.
no power in it. It's just a cold storage bathroom.
Yeah. Well, I've looked at the Fort St. John pump track, and also there are other facilities there. The pump track doesn't compare, but the other facilities to die for. So I hope that no, not to die for. Yeah, I mean the shelter and stuff is important. The NDIT grant. You haven't actually received the grant. You've been told it's approved, but no receipt of money.
We haven't received anything because we got to submit billing, and I got to get two people to sit down with me to say what their in-kind was without in-kind documentation at no charge.
Oh, say so.
But we would get about 200. We'd get 75% if we can just nail Velo Solutions, parallel projects, and Swamp Donkey. I have all the stuff from Rentco already, so.
So the hold-up's this end, not their end.
It is. No,
Thank you.
everything else has been approved and basically dated back for August the 1st to start, so.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any other questions? Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. For your future considerations for the expansion to the water park and the 13+ skills area, you threw out a bunch of numbers. You mentioned 500,000. Was that just the skills area, the 13+ playground, or was that the expansion to the misting pad as well?
The skills park is already covered and will be covered. In
not the skills park, the 13+ play area.
Playground?
Yeah.
That one there is.
That would be the total cost of just that.
Just that is 500,000 installed in that. And you had the two pictures there in our presentation. Was that both of those, or was that only one of those?
Just the bigger one.
Just the bigger one?
Yeah, because the small one isn't much of a challenge.
No. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It was 180,000 for the material
equipment
itself, and then the rest was for the construction of it.
Right.
Getting the ground ready and getting the grass planted after.
And the rubber matting,
Yeah,
et cetera, et cetera.
everything else that's required, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that isn't a firm number because I don't have a quote on it. I'm still waiting for a quote on the misting pad and on it
Right.
from the people that are supplying it or would supply it.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. I guess a couple thoughts. So thank you guys for coming and giving us an update. It's nice to know where things are, and I appreciate the ambition of the plan. So a couple thoughts occurred to me. Number one, we've had some public engagement over this last year with respect to what the public would like to see around a splash park. And almost uniformly, the feedback we received on that was they'd like us to look at putting something in Kin Park in proximity to where the updated playground is and the pickleball and tennis courts and stuff like that. Obviously, as staff brings the budget back for consideration where that decision will be made, I'd imagine, funds being finite, what we're able to invest in any given thing or initiative is going to be influenced by where we're putting money for other things. So that is something I wanted to touch on, just for your own awareness. And then I guess through you to staff, Your Worship, with respect to the lease agreement with the Mile Zero Park Society, I know in other agreements, for instance, the Exhibition Association, there's a capital schedule built into the agreement as part of the planning. Without having the Mile Zero Park Society agreement in front of me, do we have a schedule like that, or might that be just looking forward, just so each of us knows what to expect? Because that's the biggest challenge when we get asks is, planning for years in advance, how much can we allocate it at any given time? And I know, as happy as I am to see the pump track making the progress it is, the ask around $150,000 and then $350,000 loan was a surprise that fell outside of the normal budget cycle. So I'm just wondering, in the interest of avoiding surprises moving forward, if in future, if there exists a capital schedule or future iterations of the lease agreement, would it behoove both parties to have a capital schedule built in for the sake of their planning and for ours?
Yeah, so through your worship, I don't believe the current agreement has a specific item that speaks to the timing for capital requests, but you're absolutely right. It would be good as we move forward to and update that, to have that. If this is, again, timing is, I mean, this is good timing here, but but yeah, we should have that laid out so that if there's any requests that they start to, any group starts to work with staff in the late summer, early fall, kind of leading up to building those budget items.
Yeah, just because, and I, the amount of work they're putting in over there is without dispute impressive. But, the old ad, what we do for one, we have to do for all. And if this is how capital requests for city-owned but nonprofit managed facilities are going to happen, we need to be expected to standardize that across the board for KPAC, for the art gallery, and what have you. So I think it's important that we maybe capture this in a lease so that we don't end up with a dozen requests like the last one for the pump track every year.
Yep.
And sorry, Alex, I'm not trying to cut into your presentation time. I'm just thinking from a government standpoint, what's the most responsible and sustainable way to do this kind of stuff?
Yep.
We don't have anything in the lease agreement as it exists with respect to that?
I don't believe we do in the current iteration.
Thank you for that. I think, like I said, in looking through the presentation, a lot of the stuff I appreciate the ambition. And certainly, as Councillor Parslow noted, staff can bring it back through as part of the budget cycle, and we can go from there. The water line, I mean, I'm not going to speak on behalf of staff or any contractor, but getting something completed by June sounds fairly ambitious based on my 6 years in this chair, especially anything that involves underground stuff, right? Because the ground doesn't thaw sufficiently.
So through your worship, we do have it in the budget for 25. I was thinking the same, is that typically underground is challenging. Frost typically doesn't come out until May long weekend, thereabouts. What we've seen, depending on the year. So that obviously we'll if it gets through budget, and we'll try and tender the project early and try and have it completed as early as we can. But I can't, not sure I could assure June 1st, but we'll look at that. Just on your other note, Tab, our wonderful corporate officer, quickly pulled up some clauses out of the lease, and it actually says that an updated 5-year capital plan no later than June 30th of each year be presented to council.
But there's no dollar figures associated.
No,
with
but again, with an
updated
5-year plan would be a rolling plan that would say over the next 5 years you want to look at that. So
okay, so
there is some terms there. Yep.
Good, cool. I just close by noting I appreciate your focus on some of the stuff they have in Whitecourt, because that's our stop with the kid every time we go through to Edmonton for lunch. So I've made note of that myself. But thank you guys once again.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Discussion? Councillor Parslow.
Well, I really appreciate what my colleague just shared. I think it's fair to say there needs to be a serious discussion around the Pioneer Village component and the capital side of that. And it's, Alex may not say this, but this is the problem for many organizations, is that they're aging out. There may come a time where the society does not have any anyone in the lead positions. And so in that capital, I mean, I'm really pleased that Jeremy raised that issue. Yes, it should be there and done, but I think in the equation, we have to put into that equation all the facilities in the Pioneer Village. It's going to come up, and I'm sure it will be a very long, serious discussion, but I thought I'd flag that one. Can I ask you, are you going to be showing a video in this presentation?
It was part of, but I'm not sure where exactly there was two videos that got sent to me of three young people riding the pump track.
That's our pump track.
This is our pump track.
That's our pump track. And
It's fair to say these are experts.
No, these are just a couple of kids that have rode Tumbler Ridge, Grand Prairie, but they don't want to go back to Grand Prairie because theirs is dirt and gravel.
Are they authorized pump track testers, or did you just have some?
No, these are actually, I think, Tyler Jones and Renee's two boys, and I don't know who the third one is, but there's one just going to take off on the youth and seniors pump track.
So that's for Darcy as well.
It's for the youth? That's the one where Councillor Parslow and myself are racing?
Youth area.
Youth, okay.
I put you in the youth area.
Some days I feel like I'm on the other spectrum.
Geez, from the highway, it looks impressive, but looking at it from above like this is very impressive.
The reason it got done in a week to 2 weeks faster than the others is we gave them more ground to work out so they could lay it out bigger. And even the guys that were up from Velo Solutions said that Kamloops was probably 1.5 million just the pump track. This is still a superior pump track to what they had.
Great job.
Who did the drone work for you?
Craig Dino with Swamp Donkey. He's got a surveyor's drone, so he was out there surveying.
So council could have a go, perhaps, and see who makes it.
You first.
I'm a good rider. I've ridden all my life. I'm not worried about me.
Just
I'm
watching them guys going around on it.
That young guy's on the scooter.
That track is capable of a lot more speed than that. Some of the guys that were working on it, they were going around there last summer, and they were going twice that speed.
Yeah, about 30 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Good.
Quick, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Worship. Just one last one. I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. With respect to the $350,000 loan and the timeline for the remaining fundraising for the pump track, have you identified a prospective means of bridging that $200,000 delta? What kind of timeline are you looking at? What's success look like? And is that $350,000 still a loan in your eyes? Or is it, should we have another discussion later?
Yeah, probably another discussion later. It's really what we're trying to do is replace that $8 million lake that we had out there that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's probably the biggest project that I've ever been involved with, other than running a dealership, but.
Yeah.
But it's, we're just trying to replace what was there that used to have 300 to 500 people a day going to it, so.
Okay.
Good. Thanks, Councillor Earl. Any other questions? Thank you, everybody, for all the questions. I had a few. I mean, first off, I want to thank you for coming in, thank the organization for what they do, and I know there's a little bit of volunteer time put in at the table there, so we appreciate that. You know what, I think like the pump track is going to be an amazing thing for the youth in our community and for all ages, but I know there's lots of excitement around it. You know, seeing all this, I'm glad we've got this on the table because I think there needs to be some bigger discussions. Like I think with all the pressures the city's facing in every area, like I think there needs to be a bigger vision on this, and we need to have that discussion on what's possible, what's not possible from the city's perspective, what Mile Zero Park Society is looking at funding. It's clear that, there's a lot, right? There's a lot going on in the city, and then this as well. So I don't want to take away from what you guys are doing there, because I know this is about youth and creating a place for our community to come together, and I know there's some excitement around that, and I'm excited to see it too. So it's amazing. So I don't want to take away from that, but it's nice to see these numbers and understand a little bit more of the future, and then to be able to set those discussions and see where they can go, right? Because there's a significant cost to do some of the upgrades that are needed up there, and some of your vision that's out there as well. So and I do have, most of the questions are answered. I do have just one. So the pump tracks will both be open in the spring then? Because you were talking earlier about one coming back, but you said they came at the end of October and November. So there's not much more besides setting the equipment up then?
Setting the equipment and doing the build of the pump, or the bike skills track, and landscaping it, and for us to plant the trees. I mean, other than that, the tables and stuff. I mean, most people don't realize we've got about 130 picnic tables out there that we have to have, and now with that thing, we have to have at least 10 or 15 more, so.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of work in itself, just to get all the stuff that we promised we'd put, because their charges for doing picnic tables was something like $10,000, and we said, no, we'll do that ourselves. So we've taken stuff off the table. That's why the savings, and it's still, we haven't finalized what we've all paid for yet with Bylaw Solutions.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be working on it, and I'm working on my end, because even an eight rack bike rack was going to be something like $12,000 for two of them. We were going, no, we'll build our own.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Okay. And then just on the RV park, I had some just conversations in the community just about RV rates. It was brought to me that potentially your RV rates are a little bit lower than the standard market, like those that are traveling the Alaska Highway. That do you know, are your rates reviewed annually, and do they move?
Yes, they are, and Joe and I both have copies from our manager to review them, because we're trying to. They had about 12 different rates, and it was just like a hodgepodge. So we're trying to knock it down to about 6 rates. Is there a difference between back in or pull through, or should there be?
Yeah.
And they had all kinds of things in there that I don't think are necessary, but I know that he does and has checked with both Northern Lights and Tubby's across the road, and we are probably a little bit higher.
Okay.
And part of it is because Sedaton Hall is available, and we do throw in some things that help them out, but
some other services.
But right now, we've got 15 caravans booked already for next year, which average between 15 to 25 units. But without the 50 amp and sewer, we lose some of them. The sites are just, I pulled somebody's 43-footer into the site last year. My truck was on the grass on one side, the trailer was in the mud on the other side. They're just, the whole thing has not been looked at, I'm sure, in probably 40 years.
Is the RV portion of the whole operation you run out there, is it profitable?
Yes. That's how we were able to run the splash pad. Hate to say it, but we were taking $60,000 a year, between 50 and 60 for the 6 years we operated, out of the RV site to keep that thing operating, over the $50,000 the city gave us.
Yeah.
It was a noose around the neck.
Kind of robbing one to pay for the other.
Yep.
Yeah. And
Okay.
staff.
And staff,
Staff on top.
13 hours a day. Just when we turned the switch on, so somebody had to sit there, according to Northern Health. And one year, in my infinite wisdom, I thought, well, they could repair picnic tables and paint them while they're sitting there. We got caught, and we were told, no, their focus has to be on the misting pad. And I said, but they fall asleep in the chair. They said they're looking in the right direction. I said, no argument. I'm not going there.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you guys both for coming in. And I think obviously, there's some asks for sure, but I think later on when we deal with this, it's going to be just, about the bigger picture of it and where we're at. So
I know it's big, but in in about 3 years, there won't be all those things that we're trying to complete to just stop. We've tore up that ground how many times now, and we're gonna do it again and again. Instead of get it done, close the gates and operate.
Yeah.
But thank you for having us.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Thank you. Have a great day. All right, next order of business was 3. Thanks again, gentlemen. Thank you. 3, the 2024 strategic priority chart. Was there any questions to staff or to Kevin on any of this? Councillor Parslow?
I don't have a question about this, but it's related. It was discussed that we need to revamp in light of all the dynamic things that are impacting staff and council. I'm just wondering, has there been discussion about date? Is it going to happen before Christmas or after Christmas?
Pass it on to Kevin.
Through your worship, no real discussion about dates. It won't be before Christmas, just based on the calendars we know of a few folks. So it'll have to be early in the new year.
So you will be setting a date before Christmas, but that will be a date
Yeah,
after Christmas.
we'll canvass some mayor and council, see what schedules and when we can find some time.
Thanks, Councillor Barslow. Thanks, Kevin. Any other questions? No? All right, 4 late items. I think there's no late items. 5, new councillor business. 5.1, we have memo from Councillor Apolonio regarding lighting ceremony commemorating the 75th anniversary of the Philippine-Canadian diplomatic relations. Councillor Apolonio.
Thank you, Your Worship. This memo I received straight from the Philippine Consulate General in Vancouver last 2 weeks ago. It is like a celebration of the 75th anniversary of Philippine-Canadian relationship, like diplomatic, and a sign of respect and, of course, honor to the Canadian government. The Philippine government want to honor that by lighting one establishment. I think specifically the KPAC, because I think the KPAC building is the only building that has the lighting capacity. So it will happen on December 1st, 2024. I think that's a Friday. And then just only 1 hour. It's just only lighting the establishment just to say honor, thank you, and respect to the Canadian government from the Philippine government. And Dawson Creek was handpicked because it has a thriving community. The Dawson Creek community is embracing, inclusive, and they really appreciate what Dawson Creek is doing, not only in BC, of course, especially the Filipinos. So, so my proposed motion is that Council support the local Filipino community in their celebration of diplomatic relations between the Philippines and Canada. Further, that Council directs staff to light up a city landmark or building recognizing the contributions of Filipinos in Dawson Creek and Canada.
Thank you, Councillor Apolonio. Second, Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Thanks, Councillor Apolonio. Any other new councillor business? Councillor McDonald?
Greg, did you want to say something first about that?
Yeah. Thank you.
Sorry, just 1 second, please. Can you push your button? Councillor Apolonio?
Thank you for that support. And of course, just before Councillor Kyle, again, on behalf of the Filipino community, heartfelt thank you very much. It's a good turnout last night from our dinner for a cause. I know it's hard to ask people for fundraising or for people's money, but sometimes it's our heart to do it because it's a community. Even though we are good here in Canada, Filipinos especially, and we cannot really close our eyes for our fellow men in the Philippines who are suffering of Barry's typhoon. We are now at letter P now, Pepito. From I think in 5 weeks we already have 5 typhoons or 6 typhoons. So like in 1 week we have typhoons, and we can say thank you more enough for the community for really coming out last night. The seniors hall was packed, and of course, from the city, from the council, from everywhere, from MLA Larry Neufeld. Thank you very much. And we raised a good amount, close to 7,000, less expenses. And those amount a portion will go to the local food bank here. That's we pledge. And of course, the rest will go to the different regions in the Philippines that were affected, especially the upper part of the Philippines. Again, we cannot say thank you more enough. Thank you. Our hearts are full. You've been work hard for that. And then, of course, I would like to thank all the Filipino that come together to put those food, endless food, the performances, and of course, the people who came last night. We are so thankful. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Apolonio. Understatement that it was good attended. It was, it was absolutely phenomenal. So thank you. Councillor McDonald.
Excuse me. Thank you, Your Worship. So I'll deflect. Councillor Apolonio, thank you for everything you do for your community of Filipinos and the further community. I think I can speak for all of us when I say we treasure the Filipino portion of our community. You guys are family, and we will always be there to take care of family. Thank you for everything you do. Last week, on behalf of my role with the NCLGA, I was part of hosting the Mental Health and Addictions Symposium in Prince George. And on behalf of NCLGA, I just wanted to say thank you to the City of Dawson Creek, my fellow councillors, Councillor Parslow and Mayor Dober for attending. Thank City staff for sending 3 staff members in person and attending digitally as well. We had over 300 attendees attend the symposium last week on mental health and addictions. It was a great collection of minds and opinions on strategies to move forward as the whole North together moving forward. It was pretty amazing to see what started as a conversation, just an offhand conversation that happened at NCLGA last year in Dawson Creek, and how quickly it became such an important event, inaugural event that hopefully will happen every year now moving forward until we can really get a handle on the struggles every community in the North, in BC, and Canada are facing. This is an extremely important discussion for us to have. It's causing many, many hardships in all communities in the North, and it was great to see such wonderful participation. And again, on behalf of the NCLGA, I thank everybody who was a part of it in Dawson Creek. I thank you for the support from this council. I thank you, Mayor Dober, to be there to sign the accord on behalf of Dawson Creek. And it was a great, great event. So thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald, and you're welcome. It was great to be there, and thank you for your contribution for the success of the event. So. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I did just want to take a moment to thank our local Legion and cadets and the volunteers at Inchaga Hall for putting on the Remembrance Day ceremony this past Monday. I know many members of council and staff were in attendance. Just kudos to them. In recent years, I think since COVID, the uptick in attendance incrementally year over year has been great to see, and this year it was pretty much standing room only. So that's a wonderful thing to see for such a hallowed day, and just want to extend a sincere gratitude to the folks that put that together and keep it vital in our community.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parslow.
Yeah, I just want to add to what my colleague Kyle just shared. From time to time in this role as councillor, you find your paradigms being challenged. And obviously, I still have the paradigm around the importance of well-managed and sensible approach to finance in the short term and long term. Once upon a time, I was strident in saying, this topic is not our business. This topic is not our track. And that's been challenged in this term. I often used to feel as a school superintendent in the Northeast, I was cut off from the dialogue that went on in the rest of the province. I did have a close relationship with my colleague in the North Piece. And I somewhat wonder about being cut off from what's going on in the rest of the province. This council, I think, has made a correct move in an area that originally I would have opposed, and that move is, I think, going to be one of the cornerstones of this council, and I'm talking about Elgin Place. The community, like many communities, is desperately concerned about access to good medical care, and that was definitely the right move to make. And I think it will be a corner piece. There are a lot of things we need to do that will support that move. We know the money's in place, but there's lots of other things. You, Mayor, have made seniors and youth a key priority, and I just want to share some figures. So this is very important to me, and I know it's important to anybody who cares about people. And I really appreciate, by the way, Darcy, that you made that effort to get there. I know you had a busy schedule, but you got there for the second day, and it just shows your commitment to this matter. These figures shocked me, and it's been affecting my thinking. Being a former educator, it's estimated that 20% of Canadian youth are affected by mental illness. Mental health disorders affect 1 in 6 children between the ages of 6 and 17. Mental disorders among youth are ranked as the second highest hospital care expenditures in Canada, surpassed only by injuries. In Canada, only 1 in 5 of children who need mental health services receive them. An estimated 95,000 children in BC will experience mental disorder causing significant symptoms and impairment at any given time. 50% of chronic mental illness starts before 14 years of age. Furthermore, a national survey found that 70% of mental health problems have their onset in childhood or adolescence. I know we as a council, we talk about Dawson Creek being an accessible, healthy, and vibrant community. My paradigm shift is I've always thought around, planning. We're focused really about the physical infrastructure. But I've learned that there's another aspect to planning that is alive in many jurisdictions. I got this document about Alberta, and it's also about, planning isn't just about the physical, it's also about the social infrastructure. And I really think we need to get into that. We are, in a sense, getting into it because of circumstances. And I brought this document back for staff and council And this is the Alberta Overdose Response Collaborative. This is a local government overdose response resource guide. It's been in existence for 3 years. I didn't know about it until I went to this symposium. And I could talk a lot about the first day. The first day had a lot of impact. The second day had its moments as well. And the reason why there's so much mental illness is it's a feature of our culture. It's a feature of our mobility, of our isolation, of our long winters. It's a feature of people not being connected. A real degrading of family life. And this lady from Prince George made probably the most impact on me when she addressed what can municipalities do to, in a preventive role of reducing the isolation, the loneliness, the lack of care. And we need to reflect about doing things that promote inclusion, promote connection, and promote belonging, of doing things that are low barrier. Now, I don't know how my colleague, who was at that presentation as well, or Devon, take that, but a lot of it is making it affordable, making it affordable. I'll finish by saying, she made this statement. It's all schools should have breakfast programs. All schools, not some. We need to foster exercise, teamwork, team sports, things that gather people. We need to have things that remove isolation and loneliness. Many young people are just left to the cell phone, the iPods or iPads or whatever it is. There are many issues, single mothers, single parents, and poverty. Please make things accessible, low barrier. The access to sports is a big one. Sports that are affordable, sports that foster teams and networking, gives people a sense of connection, and it gives them a good framework for living life as an adult. And you know, I'm not going to dwell on this, but the thing that immediately struck me as being checks the boxes off for me is the proposal around the multi-sport complex at the Kin Arena as being an ideal that would tick off so many of those things. But that's for a later discussion. And I do want to say, also reinforce, when I learned about how this conference began, it just sheds that conferences aren't just taking presentations or lobbying, it's networking. And it was so a delight for me to meet people from the Nisga'a Nation that I don't personally know, but whose parents I know well. And in one instance, the parent of one of the presenters who I taught when I was a high school principal. I still taught a class or two. And so anyway, I look forward to this being an annual thing, but this mental health addiction issue, many communities are all struggling with it, but some have done some good things as well. And to learn that from a colleague just north of us about their work with BC Housing, and low-income housing is just an example that there's some movement, and I think we need to be part of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. It was truly a great event, and one of the better events that I've been to. It was very powerful, and it was good. So thank you. Any other new councillor business? All right, next order of business, 6, adoption of minutes. 6.1, minutes of the regular meeting of council held on November 4th, 2024 for adoption. Councillor Sudnick, second Councillor Earl, call that to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Any business arising? All right. Next, 8, correspondence. 8.1, we have a letter from Jaron Neufeld, Chartered Professional Accountant, Sander Rosebone, Grindle LLP, received on October 30th, 2024, regarding an interim audit of the City of Dawson Creek. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. Move that we receive for information.
Do I have a second? Councillor Apolonio. Thank you, Councillor Earl. Any discussion on receiving for information? No? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 9 reports. 9.1, we have report 24-136 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2025 capital paving program funding options. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the first recommendation that report number 24-136 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding 2025 capital paving program funding options be received. Further, that the $5 million borrowing within the 2025 spring security issue does not proceed, and the general capital paving project and the 2025 draft 1 budget are funded by the current year PRA allocation and $5 million from the general capital reserves.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald. Discussion. Go ahead, Councillor Earl.
Just thank you to staff for preparing the report. Of the 2 options, I think losing out on a bit of investment income and paying for that out of reserves in existence is preferable to me of paying $2 million in interest over the period of the loan. This doesn't delay the project. Certainly, inflation's a consideration. And when we set out on the 4-year paving catch-up initiative a few years back, at that time, interest rates were very different. And although it does appear they seem to be trending downward at the moment, there's no guarantee that will continue. And moreover, as we've seen in recent years, as I noted earlier, I'd much rather derive interest. Compounding interest can either be your best friend or your worst enemy, and I'd rather it be working for us in this instance as opposed to sending $2 million out in interest. So, obviously, it's not ideal to draw down reserves in the event we have some sort of emergency capital spend required. We're going to be in a position where we'll have to borrow anyway, but I think the work we've done over the last few years in pursuing a more sustainable financial position for the city is paying dividends, and one of those benefits is that when interest rates are higher than we'd like, we have the option of not having to borrow to pay for capital projects. And I think that's a good thing and indicative of the success of the last few years as far as managing finances goes.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parslow.
Well, also, if you retain your finances and you invest it, you earn interest. And I just want to know, are we going to be paying interest on this money we're borrowing from ourselves so that we retain the buying power of our dollars, or are we going to deplete our buying powers of the by not charging interest?
Through your worship to Councillor Parslow, it would be similar to the situation we already went through in the 2024 year. So The funds would come from the general capital reserve, which would reduce the surplus balance in there. So the way we allocate our interest revenue, it is allocated each month based on the percentage within the reserve accounts. You're generally just going to be recording an interest expense in one to the other. It is our own funding. It's a more complicated process. There also is the ability to replace the funds. Similar to what we did within 2024, depending on, because there was a surplus balance from 2023, that within the 2025 budget, council made a motion and we're transferring that $5 million back from operating. So in answer to your question, that's not approved in the current plan to pay back interest from one fund to the other.
I was under the impression it was. Because, everything from my history, it was considered you always do that because you're just depleting what you have. So I'm shocked that it wasn't. I know there was some discussion, but obviously the determination of that discussion was not aligned with what I thought it was. So I don't know if I approve of that, so I won't vote against this.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Discussion? I had a couple questions, Kevin, just to you. So this was a paving plan that was put in place. Is next year, is that the final year of the plan?
So through your worship, yes, next year is the final year of the additional works. It's the fourth year, I guess, where we were doing the additional 5 million.
So I think, this was put in place obviously because our aging infrastructure and we needed to do some catch up on some streets. Like we realized that we could do this for the next 30 years and probably never be caught up. But the reality is after next year, it's just going to be our normal budget per year. So at what point do we now look at the next 5 years and, we haven't borrowed the last couple of years for this, but is this something that, is there a plan that's going to be put forward to us, or do we need to ask for that to see what we should do for the next 5 years? And since we've, been successful, I believe, in this project the last few years and haven't had to borrow, do we then, and assuming if this gets approved, but do we then extend this and look at what the next 5 years look like in the community and start doing some other streets? Because it's not, I think this community is very appreciative of the amount of work and investment we've put back into it in the last couple of years, and I've certainly heard it. But we've spent $9 million, I believe, this year on road infrastructure. Similar next year will probably be close, but then it goes back down to $4 million. So that will just be kind of maintaining. So So I guess just from your point, do you need some direction for us to bring something forward, or?
Through your worship, I guess there's a couple things. One, we're continually doing our engineering side and planning pieces. We do that all the time. We're doing a pavement condition assessment update, because I think the last time we did it was 2013-ish. A road condition assessment, sorry. So we're going to be doing that in 25, which is going to give us another snapshot of the current state of the pavement condition in the community. We've used that and a few other things to kind of drive capital planning. What it'll tell us is what percentage of our roads are great and what percentage are poor and, everything in between. We'll be able to see if we've made some ground, or are we losing ground, or are we maintaining by funding, $9 million a year over the last 4 years? We should get a sense of whether we've made some headway or not. But then really the decision is what does council want to do from a funding perspective? We've got a lot of competing interests for that capital funding. And we've also, during this last 4 years, we've lost a lot of buying power, as we all know. And so when if we go back to our typical road budget of plus or minus $4 million, we're going to see a lot less get done, just simply because of the escalation in prices and then the fall off from doing $9 million. It's going to be visible. That's the one thing about paving is in the community, it's very visible to everybody. So we will have to make some decisions moving forward of whether council continues or wishes to continue with a more robust program, and then how we're going to fund it, whether that's through borrowing, whether it's through reallocation of reserves or otherwise. So we'll have to make that. But we're, like I said, we already have it in the books to do the pavement condition assessment update for 25, which is going to give us a bit of an indicator.
So will that kind of be spring of 25? Because I mean, we'll have to start thinking about 26 in the summerish, right? Or like be planning.
Yeah.
That.
So it'll probably be, I would suspect June or July is when we're probably, go there. I don't know how early we can get them to come in, but maybe it'll be a little bit earlier, but
So then at that point, that will come in, and then there could be some recommendations to see if
we'll have a better idea.
Yeah.
Like you say, the reality is we know there's lots to do.
Yeah.
Without a doubt, without that, we definitely could continue on spending this for a number of years, and everybody would be happy to see that. So it's the pavement condition assessment is going to give us an indicator, like I say, if we're going to make any headway, but I don't think it changes the perception that we could continue to do this for a number of years.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. I didn't mean to digress from the intent of this motion. It brought up,
Yep.
a lot about the future, so thank you. Councillor Parslow?
No, I for one appreciated what you brought up, and this is this initiative has certainly had its impact in a positive way. So, staff is going to be, from the point of view of the capital load projects, be using that condition assessment as the driver. So those roads that if we don't attach them, it's just going to be a bigger cost down the road. So we're going to try to invest our funds with the biggest impact. I'm assuming, well, I know that's what staff will be presenting. Though, we're in a really tough position because you add to this, we need to spend $10 million more a year than what we are doing in capital, not necessarily road, in capital, if we're going to address this capital asset management plan.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but my view is I don't know how, unless Melissa, we can find gold somewhere, that how we're going to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do support this catch-up, but I mean, your response, is right on. We could do that every year. Yeah. And then how are we going to address all our other capital asset needs and replacement?
Yeah, through your worship, I was going to...
It goes back to how the fair share, the Peace River Accord money has been used, and it could all have been used as it was intended in infrastructure, and we didn't do that. And we engaged in some other projects, such as the multiplex and the KPAC, where a lot of capital money that was available went into that as well. So you got the two things going on that really make it very difficult for this fine staff to give us. They can't wave a magic wand. We are in a predicament. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Parslow.
Through your worship, I was just going to say, so the Councillor is absolutely correct. As I said, the roads are very visible, so people appreciate that, they see that. There's a lot of things that aren't as visible, but are just as important to do, whether it's underground or whether it's equipment with inside facilities or all that. And so even with this additional funding that we have for 25, staff sat in a room and we can't do everything that we should do. We have to, and that includes paving projects get put aside, that even with the additional money. So that's not going to change and will only be more of a challenge moving forward. One thing that we will continue to do is we are going to continue the funding for some of those larger patching programs, which will help. It buys us some time. It's not a permanent fix, but the reality is if there's a bad stretch of road that we can't get to, or we know we're not going to be able to get to for a few years or more, well then, we can go in and at least give it a a quick overlay or something like that, and it buys some time, improves the drivability of it, and it pushes it off.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other discussion? No? All right, I'm going to call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried, 1 opposed. Councillor Parslow. I'm going to call a quick 5-minute break and then come back in. So. 2024 back to order. Next order of business is reports 9.2, report number 24-141 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding the 2025 acting mayor appointments. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 24-141 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding 2025 acting mayor appointments be received. Further, that the 2025 acting mayor appointments attached to this report be approved.
Thank you, Councillor Kempf. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald. Any discussion? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. Next 10 bylaws. 10.1, we have the 2024/2028 financial plan amendment bylaw number 4594 2024 for consideration of adoption. I guess there's no report. Councillor Earl, second. Councillor Kempf. Do I call this to vote first and then if there's discussion? Because there's no report, or what's the? You can discuss now, okay. Councillor Parslow.
This was made necessary, was it, from the previous council meeting where you had some changes listed, right? That report from I think it was the last council meeting. You had some changes just to update, right? And is that linked to this document?
Through your worship to Councillor Parslow, that's correct.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question too, maybe just some clarification, maybe I'm just misunderstanding. I know in our last council meeting, the fees and policies, we approved an increase. So I'm just wondering if that's reflectant on the water utility revenues, because I don't, just looking at the numbers over 2024 to 2028, I don't see the same increase that we just approved. Am I just reading it wrong, or is it in there?
So through your worship, there was a comment in that report that no adjustments were made to the amendment bylaw for 2025 to 2028, as those years will be updated through the year budget process when we get there. So when we looked at the amendment bylaw, we just looked at updating the changes in the capital projects, and the fees and charges bylaw, actually, the increase is coming for the first 3 readings today, so won't be adopted till the next meeting anyway.
Okay.
But you're correct in that the increase in those fees is not included in this amendment bylaw for 2025 to 2028.
Because that'll be a reflection on the budgets for those years. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other discussion? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next 10.2, we have report number 24-126 from the city planner regarding zoning amendment 24-02 bylaw number 4589 2024 for consideration of second reading as amended. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation that report number 24-126 from the city planner regarding zoning amendment 24-02 bylaw number 4589-2024 be received. Further, that zoning amendment 24-02 bylaw number 4589-2024 be given second reading as amended to allow for a transition in building heights to protect the viewscapes of existing residential homes.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald, discussion?
And just to refresh, this is based on the discussion we had a couple meetings ago about the Woodlands subdivision. and the desired changes made to that?
Yes, through your worship, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. I just had a question. So just the 40 meters, just for clarification, that's just moving back, that setbacks 40 meters from the existing homes for the 3-story, but also, I guess the other part of that is when this originally went out, some of the documentation got to that neighborhood a little bit late. So was this done in consideration working with those?
Through your worship, I'll
Edward
just
lands?
maybe ask Devon if he can answer those for you.
So, through your worship, last time the documentation was a little late. This is just second reading. When we get to public hearing will be coming, and at the December meeting, we'll make sure the documentation gets to those on time.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks, Devin. Any other discussion? No? All right, I will call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 10.3, we have report number 24-139 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding Council Procedure Bylaw Amendment Bylaw number 4595, 2024 for consideration of first 3 readings. Councillor Kempf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 24-139 from the Deputy Corporate Officer regarding Council Procedure Amendment Bylaw number 4595, 2024 be received. Further, that Council Procedure Amendment Bylaw number 4595, 2024 be given first 3 readings.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Second, Councillor Apolonio. Discussion, Councillor Parslow.
Looking at item 3.7C, why do we need that insertion?
3.7.
Schedule 1.
I thought you'd have that top of your head.
Because the policy currently doesn't capture what we do in the summer.
Well, we've always had only one meeting in the summer.
And now we're in compliance with the policy once this passes.
Are you doing the work of the corporate officer or something?
Would you like to go ahead, Tab? Did you want it? That's correct. Do you want to explain that out louder so everybody can hear? Because I don't.
So you're
somebody
answering
spoke out of my-
Councillor Earl, or you're answering me? Who asked the
Thank you,
question?
Your Worship. In response to Councillor Parslow, we were bringing the bylaw in alignment of our current procedures.
So are you inferring that council has been acting with no lack of authorization to do what it's been doing ever since I've been on council? Surely not.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Any other discussion?
Okay.
All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Next, 10.4, we have report number 24-124 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4593, 2024 for consideration of first 3 readings. Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll move the recommendation, the report number 24-124 from the Chief Financial Officer regarding fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4593, 2024 be received. Further, that the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 4593, 2024 be given first 3 readings.
Thank you, Councillor Kemp. Do I have a second? Councillor McDonald, any discussion? No, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. All right, next order of business 11, Mayor's Business 11.1, Mayor's updates. I'll just go through this community conversations. I had quite a bit actually the last few weeks. But yeah, just, obviously the big ones that are constant are, the homelessness and some of the crime stuff has been a big one. I wanted to mention Dawson Creek Society for Community Living. They were in here. I actually went there a few weeks ago and just met with their board and really just thanked them for what they do in the community. But it was pretty great to see all their leaders together and really what they're doing. So I just wanted to thank them. Another big one that I've been getting actually is on the sport flooring going in into the Kin Arena. So it's probably one of the biggest ones I've been getting, or the most. So there's been mixed feelings on it, but it's just an avenue to explain the process that we're in. That council hasn't approved anything. It's just been approved to come to our budget. And it's something that we're going to look at in December with our first budget and putting the flooring in. So there'll be more dialogue on that as well. So, Dr. Grohe, I went for a little dinner with him a few weeks ago. So a new doctor, orthopedic surgeon in our community, has been here for a little bit. So yeah, I just went really just to meet him and have a conversation. So I learned a lot about his life, his family. Definitely an asset to have somebody with his experience, and replacing Dr. Fletcher, who was here for years as the orthopedic surgeon, to get somebody of this caliber and experience is pretty amazing for our community. So just it was just great to build that relationship, just get to know him. And he's been here for a few months. He's going to be working out of a local doctor's office here, obviously as well at the hospital. So, it was just nice to meet him and learn. And he comes with a wealth of experience, and it's pretty clear getting to work with these doctors when they come here that they truly have like a passion for what they do. Like they're, more and more as I meet these doctors and get to work with them, you see why they're doctors and why they do what they are. It's not about for any other reason besides they just want to give back and they want to help. And so it's pretty amazing. And it was wonderful to get to meet him. Community awards. We had our community awards a few weeks ago. Absolutely phenomenal. Every part of it. We had, last year was kind of the first year that it went back out to the community as a celebration. To the community, and it was extremely successful then. We had 40 people the first year. This year we had 224, so it was sold out, and just absolutely amazing to be in a room with 224 residents of our community and region that just give back and are true ambassadors for our city and who we are as a city. So it was just, every part of it was phenomenal. There was 34 different nominees for all the categories. I think they said there was 1,500 votes brought in, which is almost more than we get for an election. So it's just phenomenal, and to see, just such a positive, feel-good event, but it's really about embracing our community, and that's what makes our community is amazing, is our people. So I'm grateful that we have a council and a city team that shares that same vision, and it's about embracing our community. It's not about a dictatorship. It's about how do we do things together and move forward, because it's clear our communities wanted this too, just by seeing the success of the last two events. So that was amazing. I'm going to just quickly touch on the awards that were given out. So there was the Emergency Service Professional Champion of the Year, which went to Jerome Lake. Which was amazing. And I mean, every nominee was absolutely amazing and deserving of every award, but I'm not going to touch on all of them. The Health Service Professional Champion of the Year went to Autumn Sitma. Inclusive Workplace Award nominees went to School District 59. Volunteer of the Year Award went to Adam Rollick. Nonprofit of the Year Award, which we had in here this morning, South Peace Search and Rescue. Youth of the Year Award nominees went to the Arc Christian Youth Center. So this one I'm just going to touch on a little bit. The Arc Christian Youth Group has been around, I think, for 35 years. But you get a gentleman, as John Van Bronson up there, I think he just had his 92nd birthday. A truly phenomenal organization, what it does to our youth. And, we talked earlier about mental health and of youth. Like, this is what they've been doing for 35 years, all on a nonprofit organization. So it was phenomenal. That one, they all were. But Entrepreneur of the Year Award went to Krista Nguyen Forshner from Cosmic Crumbs. Business of the Year Award went to the Dawson Creek Co-op.
And then the Citizen of the Year went to Mona McNally. So it was, just a phenomenal place. A huge shout out to Community Futures Peace Liard for taking this on and really just nailing it again and doing a wonderful job, but also to everybody that was involved in it. All the nominees, our community for voting 1,500 times for those nominees, and then also to the event center team over there at Co-op Mercer Hall. They and the whole decor, the whole evening was phenomenal, and it was just amazing. So thank you to everybody. Thank you to council. It's sometimes I get the joy of standing up there and doing the fun things and recognizing the community, but I don't get to do that without you guys. So with all of you, and I mean that when I say thank you. So thank you. Tourmaline Oil, we had a meeting with them a few weeks ago. Just there's some, I don't know if anybody's seen the CNG service stations discussions. So they're kind of popping up. There's been a couple opened in Alberta. Brought to our attention, so we just reached out to Tourmaline and had a call with them just to learn a little bit more about what they're doing. So very exciting information, and it was very educational. But I think they're planning. I can't remember offhand, but 25 outlets through Western Canada. There's some connection that we made with them and some other organizations regarding economic development in our area. So it was just neat. And if you haven't heard about it, it was kind of the first I heard about it. Just research it. It's pretty interesting. And to see the industry, lots of industry switching to this, it was pretty neat. So I can share more information as well, but you can just look it up on Tourmaline if you haven't. It's pretty good. As well, MLA Neufeld came in, I think it was I don't know, it's all a blend a couple weeks ago. It's been a little bit busy, but came in and met with Kevin and myself. Just we gave him a bit of an update just on things that we've been dealing with really over the last couple of years, whether it was UBCM or our trips to Victoria, our meetings with, the Attorney General and Solicitor General, like all of them. We just kind of gave Mr. Neufeld just an update on where we're at with everything, and just kind of, building that relationship and continuing to move forward. So that, and all the active ones we're on as well. We just kind of give them an update. So economic development, I'm not going to get into too much of this. There's been quite a bit of dialogue actually the last couple of weeks, last month and a half or so, just about some, new things in the area, some businesses reinvesting in the community, some other things potentially coming. So there's just been it's been a bit of an uptick, and the amount of time I've been dealing with it, so it's nice to see. So and hopefully be some exciting things in the future. So Typhoon fundraiser, Councillor Apolonio touched on the one last night. I was also a couple of weeks ago, there was one that was held at Flavor State by Jeanette and the team there, so we attended that. Another amazing evening and fundraiser, and I just wanted to thank Jeanette and her team and the the whole Filipino community. But really, I don't like to center out like the Filipino community, because we're all in this together, and it's all one community. And I think it showed that last night, because it was an event that was put on. Clepi did organize it, but it was a full event. And when you looked around there, it was everybody from our community last night, and the same with at Flavors 8. So it's just, it truly is a community. And it's an honor to be at those events and see our community, and just reassures what, I try to make my purpose every day, and is just to try and give back and do the next right thing. And you see it when you're exposed at those events to our community and what our community is about, because our community is phenomenal, and our people is what is phenomenal. So so it's just amazing to be at. I didn't have on my list, but I did want to touch on the Remembrance Day ceremonies. So I was out of town, but I did get back in time. So Councillor Earl did thank the Air Cadets as well, but just the Legion, the Air Cadets, just that whole ceremony. It's definitely one of the first things I did as a mayor, and one of the most memorable each year is when you get to go there and you really get to
remember those that made the ultimate sacrifice, but also puts in perspective today, like what we have today and why we have it. And, my problems today personally are pretty minuscule in the world compared to what others have given. They've given the ultimate price so I can enjoy what I have today. And for that, I'm grateful. And for that, I remember that because I want to do the best job I can, in life in general, but in this role at remembering that and giving back to making, what I can do for our community and region to make it a better place. So, so thank you. NCLGA also is on my list. It'll be on my next mayor's update, but I know Councillor McDonald and Councillor Parslow touched on it, but I'll also give a little bit of an update to just on I was grateful that I got to go to it. So sometimes it's tough for me to travel. I try to get to as many as I can, but this was one I was grateful that I made it for. I was only there for the second day, but it was absolutely phenomenal. And it just showed me that for me, all you can really worry about is what we do daily and what we can contribute to society and how we can make a difference. And it just reiterated what we do each day. And it's about our community, our region, how do we make it a better place? And it was clear at that. And also, Councillor Parslow touched on some of the youth numbers. I sat in a seminar with some youth leaders from Fort St. John, actually, that work in the emergency room service up there. And I think their data was from 2020, I want to say, or 2022. But in a short period of time, they've had 600 youth go through the emergency room there, just in relation to mental health. And it was mind-blowing to me that those are our future leaders, and we do need to stand up and do something to help them, because but it was amazing to see those two, and I was in awe and inspired by both of them. So and thank you for your contribution for that event. So any questions on any of those? No? All right. Next, 11.2 is the delegation request from the South Peace Search and Rescue. So they had a few asks. I think more so what I understand from that is kind of their will is just to see if this, the city has an interest in working with them to see if there's any future possibilities to work with them. So I don't know if somebody wanted to put something forward here. There wasn't really a direct ask besides, I guess a structure if there was something within the city, and then some kind of future funding agreement. So, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. I would just move that we ask staff to continue to have dialogue with Search and Rescue and continue the discussions we've already had, and maybe one day in this near future that we can come up with a solution for them with a space for them in the community.
Thanks, Councillor McDonald. Do I have a second? Councillor Sudnick, any discussion? No? Yeah, I am too. I guess I just have one comment to council and maybe to the city team. Emergency services is our number one line item on our budget, right? We're $9 million a year we invest into emergency services for our community. That's just directly from the municipality, let alone the stuff that's done regionally. Do we see much room in this? I know we got some other pressures coming from that too, right? We're looking at adding, members, which is going to be coming to us. So I know their ask wasn't financial. I mean, part of it was they asked about a funding agreement. Part of it is about a building. So I just don't, I guess if it's something that we're going to direct the city team to look at, is that something where, it's going to be a priority on our list when we go to our budgeting, right? So I don't know if.
Yeah, so through your worship, I did want to know, we did a look, and I believe we are requisitioned $44,000. Yeah, just about $45,000 from the regional district for health-related services. Apparently that is where the grant from the RD comes from. So I can't say of that 45 that we send there how much, goes towards them, because I don't know what they receive from the regional district. So there is some money coming from the community going to the regional district that is then in turn supplied to SAR. Yes, you're correct that emergency services with fire, police, includes bylaw and a few other things, is probably your largest budget item. If council wants to include some financial component within the budget, that's one thing that we can look at. I'd be interested to know what relationship they have in some of those other communities like Tumblr and Chetwynd. That might be an information gathering piece that we might want to get to. But
Yeah, okay. Another other part of their question just about city facility. I know they said they've had some dialogue with city. Like, is there a facility that we have somewhere that you've thought of that could work for this that we're not utilizing?
So honestly, I haven't had that discussion. Not sure.
No. Okay.
Anybody on the table has. We talked a little bit at the break. We don't currently have anything. We're short of space. Especially heated space, just like everybody else. We are, in the coming years, going to be looking at building a new hangar space at the airport. Don't know if that frees up any space necessarily, because the old one probably has to go. We don't really have space that we could afford to give up 3 bays for other equipment. I'm not saying, on the flip side, they provide a valuable service in the community.
Yeah.
And the region, really.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And I guess just if those that are out there or to the South Peace search and rescue, I'm not asking these questions because I don't feel that they bring value. I think they do an amazing job and it's a huge service. It's just, the pressures that we face in every other area. It's, just the question. So, thank you. Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. So, as specific as the ask got, and I think what Councillor McDonald captured in his motion was basically giving you permission to allocate your time to continue to discuss possibilities with South Peace Search and Rescue, which I don't have an issue with. With respect to a long-term solution to their problem, I know Councillor Parslow, during the delegation, asked questions about maybe repurposing the existing fire hall once a new one gets built. That seems kind of, if it's not fit for firefighters anymore, why would it be fit for search and rescue? But and I know we haven't, as part of the tangible capital asset management plan, landed on any kind of prospective date for replacing the fire hall or the current police station. But there will come a time when we have to pull the trigger on that. And at that time, it might be possible to add a couple bays on the end of a new fire hall that could be provided to them for use or something like, to my mind, as a long-term solution, that seems like the most workable way. If we're building a new facility and it's a one-time cost that saves them that $2,000 a month, and you lease it to them for $1 a year or whatever the deal is, that to me seems like the most likely. It's probably many years out still, but as opposed to once again doing the tour of the airport a couple weeks back and seeing the condition of some of the buildings they're currently using out there. Once again, putting search and rescue in there doesn't seem realistic, because if it's not suitable for our staff, you can't very well expect other people to work out of it. So that's just my thought. But yeah, I think continuing to have the conversation and see what's possible, and today isn't tomorrow, and an opportunity might present itself. So. But I think as we have this conversation, it's important to keep the regional district apprised of the conversation and be reminding our area directors and our neighbors in Pouskoupi that they're also expected to be part of whatever solution we land on.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor McDonald?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. Yeah, I just wanted to say, Councillor Earl nailed the intent of the motion. Absolutely. Just as our delegate said, you know, this was in the infancy of space, and just wanted to have conversations and open conversations. And I enjoy the idea of, if we are building a new fire hall, that the possibility of including space for search and rescue would make a lot of sense to me as well. So just wanted to clarify that was the intent of the motion.
Thank you. Any other discussion? No, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. Next, 11.3, the delegation request from the South Peace Art Society. So, I guess maybe just a bit of, before we put a motion here, is there something from staff? Like, do we need a motion to be able to release funds, or is that, because I mean, that was more the request to release funds in the fall and then some more in the spring for this year. So what do you need from us?
So through your worship, no, we don't need a motion on that. We're going to process the amount that they've requested, and then the addition of the $10,000 that didn't get done in 2024 is showing as an addition now to the 2025 budget.
Okay, thank you. So you don't need anything. Okay, perfect. All right, next, 11.4 would be a delegation request from the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living. And that one too, there's no real request besides, I guess, looking to see if there's something we can do in the 2025 budget. So I guess if that was the desire of council, you just need some direction if you want.
So through your worship, yes, I mean, their ask, what I heard was they would like some ongoing support that would be in the budget starting next year and forward, so it gives them some certainty. So I think what staff needs is, if council's considering that or wants to see some of that, we would need to know how much, and we would have to see if, put that into the hopper of the budget mix.
Okay. Councillor Parslow?
Sorry, I had to leave. There's an appointment. I had to quickly sign something. I think the bigger question is, again, this social infrastructure. Are we going to venture into supporting senior care or not? It's one of those social infrastructures, right? So I think it's a bigger discussion, because there's so many needs out there. Personally, I'm all in favour of it, but I do think it needs to be tied to something. I'm just worried that we will be pulled in so many different directions. Some are emergent. I didn't hear of any. This is a valued, needed program, but I didn't sense that there was any quantification of a demand that was not being met. If you understand what I'm trying to say here, because we all have a heart to support our seniors, and all people, it doesn't matter, but I'm just trying to be the what's the word I'm looking for? I was trying to say the grandfather here, senior myself. I mean, I'm all for supporting people's needs, but can they quantify? Is there a need? I'd like to go back to them and say, fine, we appreciate what you're doing. I mean, I was the long-term board director for that society, but is there a need that's not being met that we need to be considered here. So that would be my suggestion. I mean, a pressing need, right?
Is that a motion?
Well, I would like to move that we send a request to the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living for some information about the pressing needs of seniors for food security that are not being met by their program.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Second, Councillor McDonald. Discussion, Councillor Earl.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with the motion. I think previously this Councillor Parslow's inquiry could have it might be worth reaching out to the BC Seniors Advocate, who they've done some presentations at the Seniors Hall before, and they maybe have a bit more capacity to provide statistics around that, and maybe even at a local Dawson Creek level. One thing I'm apprehensive about as we enter into the conversation of taking over a part of what you describe as a social service is, and the reason I ask the questions about means testing or income verification is because, the potential for, as I noted, 64 people is unlikely to be the number, once we start funding an initiative like this, the number of people who sign up. And you want to make sure funds being finite, that they are going to those in need. One thing Councillor Javetkoff used to note when he was here is when we do free days at the pool. It's a wonderful initiative, but it would drive up the costs to run the pool because you need additional staff because more people would show up. And then you just kind of end up in this thing where you're spending more, and are you helping those in need, or are you just providing free stuff to those who have the ability to navigate the bureaucracy and make use of it? And that's something I'm always cognizant of, especially when we're, as a municipal government, looking at uploading a new thing onto ourselves. So I think Councillor Parslow's motion requesting further information where we articulate the actual need or the actual demand for this initiative is a good first start. But this is something, as much as I appreciate the work they do, and as much as I think we as a society have a responsibility to take care of our elderly and, being the beneficiaries of the work they put in to ensure that they're spending their autumn years not in a state of poverty, I think is a worthwhile ambition. But there's a lot of moving parts, and I think we need more information before we set out on any given course.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, building on what my colleagues are saying there, I would also wonder if we could get information, because we do have very finite funds right now. We are constantly juggling, and asking city staff to juggle so much right now. Is there anything in kind we could do? Possibly offering kitchen space at the Oventive Center, knowing that we have one cook working out of a small kitchen, trying to supply meals, 6,000 meals a year. Seems like quite a struggle. Is there anything we can do like that to help their costs and expenses? We have a commercial kitchen sitting there quite often. Could it be made use of once a week? Something like that. Is there something that just isn't a direct capital cost for us, and something else we can provide?
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other discussion? I just had one question, Kevin. Does the city annually, do we contribute anything to the Dawson Creek Society for Community Living? I know we do, like, through some of the other organizations. And sorry to put you on the
No, that's all right. Through your worship, I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is permissive tax exemption. I don't know if there's a specific payment of such.
Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, Any other discussion?
Just information, they've received funding streams from various ministries for most things. I mean, there's always a bit of a funding issue, but their 10 million plus budget is largely funded by Ministry of Housing and Society for Community Living, BC. So I think if they have a special need, they come to you, I think.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure if we annually did, because I know with some of the other like speakers that we do, annually give them funding, so I wasn't sure if we do with them. So, yeah. Okay. Does that give you clarification? Like, are you good with that motion? Like
Yeah, through your worship, I mean, what I'm hearing is we're going to draft a letter to go back asking for how they're determining need, essentially, and what they have for data to support that, which would help guide us.
And come up with a number if there is something there. Yeah, so, okay, thank you. All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed, and it's carried. I'm just going to break for lunch, so we'll come back in a half an hour. So our next order of business was 11.5 with a delegation request from South Peace Mile Zero Park Society.
And the request was what?
So I guess there was a few requests in there, but I mean, going back to the lease, it does say for any capital stuff to be in by June of the previous year. So is this something where, what are you envisioning?
So through your worship, yes, there's a number of asks. I guess kind of need a sense of where council wants to go with this. There's, I think if this is something, if council has a vision to expand Rotary Park, then it should be a priority of council and you should direct staff to do that. What's happening is MOPS is doing that because it's the world that they're working in down there and they want to see it improved and do that. But if it's something that council wants to do, it needs to fit within the bigger scope. We would need to look and see how that balances off some of the, the Parks and Rec master plan and all those pieces and to see where they prioritize. On first blush, most of these things are not, I don't know that they're at the top of the priority list other than the talk about a water splash park, misting park feature, whatever. That is an item that was identified in the Parks and Rec master plan as pretty much a number one item. But we have been directed by council to go through that whole process and pick locations, which public has spoken, talked about, that. And I would just, hazard or caution council against what the public have said where they want it and what they want is very different than what they're proposing in here. And I don't think the community needs two of them. I could be wrong, but that's my belief is I don't think you need one there and then contemplate one over here either. So I think that's a decision point as well for council. So I just quickly added up some numbers there the other day and, just ballpark, it looks like 25, it's a $1.5 to $2 million ask. 26, it's kind of in that same neighborhood. And 27, it was undefined. And we've gone through our capital list and we had to take a number of priorities out to balance that capital budget for 25 so far. So these weren't contemplated in there. So if this is something that council wishes to do, then we'll have to have a discussion about what's not going in.
Okay, and then just before there's a motion to clarify the water line next spring, so that's something they also requested, but that's going to be done. Does that have anything to do with water to the washrooms? That's just getting water
so
there.
it's in the budget. I suspect that will proceed. Timing, I don't think we'll be able to meet the June 1st deadline, but we'll shoot to have it done earlier. Right now, they have water. What they have is unreliable. It's an old line that they've had some issues with, so it's there, but it's a bit unreliable. So this would be replacing it. It would also be bringing in a fire hydrant, things like that, and more capacity, so for future.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. Councillor Parslow?
Yeah, it's, indirectly, Kevin has raised basically an issue of governance. And I think it's a fundamental, it keeps rearing its head different times in different councils. Ultimately, we as a council, working with staff, are responsible for the stewardship of the public money. And hopefully, the council, with the information provided by staff to help us, has to take the big picture of the needs of the community and the priorities. People who are invited to respond at forums or questionnaires have no idea of the big picture. And I, for one, refuse to be dictated by surveys, media, social media. Sure, it's valuable information, but it doesn't determine what we do. We have to balance all these things. I have never seen the master recreation plan. I have never been given it. I don't know all its contents. I know some of it, and I know what some people who attended it felt about it. Just a few. So ultimately, this request from the Mile Zero Parts side needs to be assessed. It needs to be put aside other projects. And as you said earlier, the many projects are not seen, but they're absolutely essential to the community. You will never get that referenced in any public forum until the water line breaks and downtown is flooded, and then you know what the reaction will be. Why didn't you do something about it? So I don't know how we can even consider these requests in a vacuum, make any promises about anything until we have a picture of the budget scenario. There are core projects that are not sexy that need to be dealt with. There's preventative maintenance. We've had two wonderful examples this year with Memorial Arena and the Ken Barrett Aquatic Center. So I don't see how we can respond to this request. I think it should be considered, but I would need, I can't make any determination of whether it should be put in the budget for consideration or not. Maybe everything that's asked for should be noted. And you, staff, which you will do, I know, these are the priorities. But working as an elected official for many years, and alongside this wonderful group of people on council, we have to make decisions based upon the varying competing needs. And some of them may not be the popular ones. So I don't see, I just say we acknowledge receipt and it will be considered for budget at a proper time. Nothing else.
Is that a motion?
Is that your motion?
That's my motion, yes.
Can you repeat it?
That we send a letter of appreciation for their submissions, and that they'll be considered during the budget process.
We have a second. Councillor Earl. I'm assuming you spoke to that before.
Yes,
Are you
I
good?
did.
Okay.
Yep.
Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Your Worship. Question through to staff. The existing lease agreement with MOPS, when is that due to be renewed?
So through your worship, we'll just find that for you.
Sometime in 2026.
2026.
Okay. So, yeah, I'll support the motion from Councillor Parslow, as I think that's realistically all we can do at the moment. For the next iteration of the lease agreement, I would like to see, similar to what we have with, say, the Exhibition Association, if we're going to have an annual capital spend expected by that society as part of their stewardship of the property, that be in there. So that they understand what kind of figures we have to work with, because to reference what you said earlier, $1.5 to $2 million a year for the next 2 years is pretty significant with respect to a capital spend on recreation and cultural amenities. I mean, I'm not sure what the proposed aggregate amount we were looking to spend in this coming budget cycle was for purely recreation and cultural amenities, but I'd imagine that singular property would eat up the bulk of that. So, yeah, I guess, just we need to figure out a way to work with MOPS in a sustainable way so that we each know what we can expect. The surprise $500,000, I don't know the surprise, but it was not something that went through the normal budget process. And we need to, I think, reaffirm that as the normal way to go about getting these projects funded. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Any other discussion? No. Kevin, is that?
So through your worship, just clear everything that's been asked in that. We'll just refer to budget process, all the asks that are in there. So that essentially we're thanking them for the submission, and then we'll put that into the mix for 25 and beyond.
That's my understanding of the motion. Is that correct? Yeah.
And I think what we've talked about this internally is just the challenge is there's a lot of projects, and there's a lot that council doesn't see because they get pushed off the list. I think what we need to try and do is say, here's what's on the list and here's what's not on the list, so you can really get a sense of what, from a staff perspective, why they've been prioritized the way they have, and the ones that are essentially haven't made it. Gives you perspective of how many potentially get deferred, annually as well. So we'll take a look at that and see. Just it'll be helpful, and then council can ask why maybe a particular project or why they're not on the list, and if you want to look at moving things around, we can talk about the implications of any of those.
Okay, I got a question. I think of their request, and I mean what they're doing out there it's great, and they're an organization out there. But when a request like this comes to us, it's significant for us, right? Because there's an ask to us in value. But like washrooms, for example, like they have washrooms out there. Maybe they're not as nice as they need to be, but we also know that there's a need for washrooms elsewhere in our community, right? So at what point do we as a council say, no, we don't need washrooms at Kin Park where there's, we've got all these other facilities that we've built there, and there's a huge influx of people there's no washrooms. So like, yeah, bring it to budget, but I'm looking at this saying like, if I had to prioritize where we need washrooms personally, I would say we need some closer to Kin Park. Mm-hmm. So are we wasting, if the time to do more research? Because I don't think we can afford to put 2 bathrooms in, but maybe we can.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if we can afford to do one. So, yeah, where do we?
No, that's what we, through our prioritization of projects and whatnot, if we're going to add those in, we're going to look at that and balance those things off, and those are the things that we would look at. But then council will have an opportunity to change that if it doesn't land where you want.
So you see doing this exercise being value to yourself and for us to give
Well,
direction without having a discussion right now?
Through your worship, it's fine. I mean, there's, in 25, there's 2 or 3 projects. I mean, we can take a look at that, take the numbers that we were given, and bring it forward. We've got, the budget kind of established or set, I guess, to bring forward on the December, to the 16th meeting. So that's really when the discussion's going to happen about all of those aspects. We're going to need a significant amount of time to talk about budget-related items because there's a lot of these sorts of things that there's decisions that need to be made on them individually as we go through.
Okay. And then on that December 16th, when we're going through the budget, I know last year we approved the capital expenditures early on before the final drafts because for ordering stuff. Is that kind of going to be the intent on that one as well?
Yeah, I mean, we need to have those capital kind of decisions made so we can, get early start on those projects and early tendering and whatnot. So that's what we're hopeful for.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Parslow.
Well, staff last year produced a very usable document, the capital stuff, and you showed the high priorities from your perspective as it related to core things. And council looked at them and made some changes to put some core things in that weren't necessarily core, but they were important to council. That's the governance process. That's politics, right? Not necessarily the right thing, but the thing that council think is important to them. And we live with that, right? So just to clarify what the mayor just asked you, again, I'll claim it's my age in defense. I applaud the practice of approving those capital projects that are going out to tender, like the road, all the road stuff. But did we do that for everything last year? Every capital item so early on in the budget process?
Yeah, through your worship, I'm pretty sure that we did. Melissa, do you have something different?
I just question it because, it's the first kick at the cat, and we made a decision around $20 million of the $50 million. We haven't had. I mean, I know it's necessary for the paving, absolutely, but I just wonder if that may be the first time we did it, because in the past, maybe it started 3 years ago, we did approve the paving ahead of the budget approval time, so we could do that. And now I'm hearing, is morphed into everything.
So through your worship, we're just looking at what we did last year. And so we did the capital approval in January, so a little bit later. So obviously the earlier the better. But ultimately, it's council's decision that as we go through it, either you're able to make decisions or, there'll be reasons why you won't be able to maybe make decision on certain items at that point in time. But I would suggest that we want to have capital finalized in January at the latest so we can get those tenders out. Like you say, maybe on the 16th, a number of items are straightforward. Maybe there's some that aren't as much and
Well, as you know, staff, the tax rate increases, some people are very sensitive about that. I may be less so. If we don't establish in any firm way the tax rate until much when we've really been into the budget process, right? And we determine, sometimes, it's practice of some councils in the north once you determine the tax rate, you'll add a certain amount to it for infrastructure. I hope our budget deliberations are open to the fact that if there are some initiatives that would require a higher tax rate, we will consider that. We're not locked into a tax rate until, what is it, April? May?
With the tax rate.
May? Yeah.
Yeah, the budget needs to be adopted in May, but the tax rate is established prior to that. But it's a living document right up until you adopt it. There's always going to be subject to change. There's going to be new information. There's going to be things that come up.
But there was my last comment. Yes, you're right, it's a living document. But for staff, so that you could tender, it was like saying, hey, this will be in the budget regardless of the fallout of the rest of it, right?
Yep.
That's my assumption.
Yep.
And I know it was a new practice, which I thought was a great idea, and it was confined to paving projects. Now it's extended to all capital. That's what I'm hearing from staff.
Yeah, through your worship, paving, and I know specifically we did some with some water line projects in order to procure supplies and stuff, because it was a couple of years ago when we were dealing with supply issues, and we needed to get going earlier because of the fallout from COVID and all those things. I think it started with the paving and then morphed into a few other items because of that. But anything we can tender earlier, we're bound to get better pricing for.
Thank you. Thanks, Councillor Parslow. Any more discussion? All right, I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. That's carried. Next, we have 11.6, memo from myself regarding appreciation of former MLA Mike Bernier and recognition of the new MLA Larry Neufeld. Councillor Parslow.
I would like to propose that we divide this motion into two. And I'd like to move what I would like is that we have a motion that reads that Council send a letter thanking Mr. Bernier for his years of dedication and service to the City of Dawson Creek, the South Peace region, and the province of British Columbia, period.
I have a second. Councillor Earl. Any discussion on this? No? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. Councillor Parslow.
I would like to make another motion, which the corporate officer has. Do you have that for the screen? Or do you want to read it aloud, whichever is easier for you?
Or I can bring the paper back over here if you'd prefer.
That Council authorize a letter to be sent to Larry Neufeld congratulating him on his new role as MLA for Peace River South. Further, to invite him to attend an open council meeting on at least an annual basis to share his work and his focus on behalf of the citizens of Dawson Creek.
That's what I move. Thank you.
Councillor Parslow. Second. Councillor Apolonio. Any discussion? All right. Oh.
Yeah, I made the amendment because Mr. Neufeld, this is, I believe, his first venture into any politics. And I think it's unreasonable to have somebody who has no experience present to us at an upcoming meeting. I'd rather give Mr. Neufeld an opportunity to have a year or so of work. He can always be in contact with us at any time if he finds the need. But I'd like to hear from him, at least on a year-long basis, about his work and what he's doing and his focus, and to engage with a dialogue with this council. But I think it's rather premature to invite him immediately. So that's why I put the motion as it is.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. I think Councillor Parslow pretty much took the words right out of my mouth. That with MLA Neufeld just getting into the role, it seemed kind of premature to invite him in already. He's going to be so busy being in Victoria, learning his role, everything like that. Just, I don't think we need to add any pressure onto him by inviting him into chambers so early, right? Give the gentleman a chance to get his feet under him, solid, and then come present to us when he's ready and able, instead of us rushing him.
Thank you. The intent of the original motion wasn't to rush him in here. It was to give him an opportunity to meet everybody at council and build that relationship. It wasn't about an update. It was more just out of respect, but and then just giving him that opportunity. So that was the intent. But yeah, all good either way. Any other discussion? No? I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed and it's carried. Next, 11.7, memo from Mayor Dober regarding letter from the leaders table to Premier Eby and opposition leader John Rustad condemning racism and anti-Indigenous rhetoric. Councillor Parslow.
I move that Council supports the letter from the leaders table dated November 12, 2024, condemning racism and anti-Indigenous rhetoric. Further, the Mayor be authorized to sign the letter on behalf of the City of Dawson Creek.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Second, Councillor Apolonio. Any discussion?
If I may.
Go ahead, please.
I appreciate that this was raised by the Council of Leaders there. There were many issues that really upset me that were raised in this previous election, and I think if we're going to move forward as a province, we need to be inclusive of all people, regardless of their sexual preference, their age, their gender, or any isolationism or segregation. We learned at this conference in Prince George that stigma is a major cause of mental illness, and we need to be careful of the language we use. And if we're going to build this province, we need to recognize the history that's affected Indigenous people and work to have some meaningful reconciliation. So I appreciate the sentiments of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Parslow. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I just, same as Councillor Parslow, I wanted to applaud yourself and the rest of the leaders table for taking the initiative to make a stance in the North. We talk all the time about our relations with our neighbors, with the rest of the municipalities. This is a great stance for us to take and be loud and affirmative in our stance on racism and intolerance. That's a great motion, and I applaud you guys. Well done.
Thank you. Councillor Earl? Sorry, I'll try that again. Councillor Earl?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, just this is certainly one of the uglier provincial elections I can remember throughout. There's, it was only a month-long election period, but it felt like it would never end at some points. There were a number of very kind of irresponsible and inflammatory statements made public throughout. Some of those, unfortunately, had a racial dimension and were directed towards Indigenous people. And I know certainly as the new provincial government takes form, people who won as the responsibility of their role settles on them. They all come to appreciate how just hurtful and counterproductive carrying on like that is. I know we as a municipal government have made a concerted effort, both through your leadership and through your predecessor's leadership, to strengthen our relationships with neighboring communities and the Indigenous people that live throughout the region, and just find a better way forward to live alongside one another. And when people at provincial, federal, or any other level of government, exploit those old prejudices or that outdated way of thinking, it makes people feel unwelcome. It puts people on edge. It makes everyone's job harder. It doesn't result in anyone's kid getting a better teacher or anyone's grandparent getting a better doctor. No roads get built. It just hurts people and mires us all in the muck. And I think it's a good thing to reaffirm from the leadership table, and hopefully those who need to hear the message take it to heart.
Thank you, Councillor. Other discussion? Questions? No? Thank you. All right, I'll call this motion to vote. The vote is closed. It's carried.
Was that the memo to Reschny we just voted on?
No.
No.
We already voted
That's
on
what flashed up. Thought we were voting.
All right, next order of business. It's just because there was one added. So, yeah.
Had the wrong title.
All right, next order of business, Chief Administrator Officer Operational Updates. Kevin.
Good afternoon. Thank you. A couple of quick updates. Water. I wanted to let council know I had myself and a number of staff had a meeting with the ministry last week. Emergency Management BC was there as well. Just really just giving them an update on what our situation is, which they were generally aware of, which is good. You know, they know that there's drought in the Northeast, obviously. But we wanted to just make sure they were fully aware and appreciated our concern and situation. So it was a good exchange of information. They asked some good questions. Watershed staff were able to provide some good details. And we're going to continue to have ongoing conversations on a monthly basis just to provide updates. Everybody's concern is that, depending on what the weather does, is that if it gets cold, there's a chance for the river to freeze off again like it did last year. So, but, there's a lot of variables that have yet to be figured out. But, reservoirs are generally full, so we're in a good spot. We've got lots of days of storage. So that's okay, which leads me into my next thing, which is we are, and have been for the last few days, doing a valve repair on our main transmission line right near Eris. We had a couple of leaky valves we needed to replace, so that work's ongoing. Should be wrapped up tomorrow. That's the hope right now. So we've had the water off for a few days, so we're unable to pump to the reservoirs. So we're going to use a little bit there, but then hopefully once we're back up and running, we can catch up to the bit that we lost. So that's happening. And the only other thing I was going to update on is Melissa had provided the 2025 preview roll from the assessment. So we had in our assumptions put a 2% lift on assessment, and everything proved out to be that or slightly better, correct? Except for the commercial. Commercial was down to 0.35% lift as opposed to 2% lift. Is that correct? Yeah. So everything else was 2% or better. Commercial was about 0.35% lift. So it overall, I guess the average is about 1.7%, and so that resulted in about 155, I think, thousand less in revenue than what we had anticipated. So just an adjustment that'll need to be made, but generally speaking, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay.
In the big picture.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Earl.
Thank you, Worship. Question through to staff. If memory serves correct, commercial accounts for about 50% of the tax base. So them coming in at 0.35% is weighted as 50% against the other average. Is that a weighted out? The 1.7 wasn't a weighted average, but is the aggregate amount of money based on Kevin's 1.7, or is it a weighted average that 0.35 accounts for 50% of the taxes?
Through your worship to Councillor Earl, so that's correct. The 1.7% was not a weighted average, but the financial impact of the 155,000 decrease was
weighted.
Was weighted
Okay.
and looked at specifically what's per class, and so.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to
That'll be
confirm.
the financial impact.
Excellent.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Parslow.
Well, I know we're all concerned about the water situation. And one thing that I think it's okay to talk about this is the environmental assessment. I think we should be jumping all over that issue. It seems so ludicrous when you look at the amount of water involved that we have to be subject to this possible 4-year hiatus. So what strategies, or maybe they need to be formed to either get this waived or brought forward somehow. Maybe it can't be. Maybe to do a proper scientific study, you do need a 4-year. But then I would say, why do we need this study on this serious problem that involves so very little water in the whole scheme of things?
Yeah, so through your worship, we had that conversation with the ministry. It's not necessarily their department; it's the Environmental Assessment Office's department. But they understand our concern and frustration with that. I think the only thing that we can do is probably advocate to a new minister when they're named today, and have possibly that conversation at some point here probably likely in the new year.
We talked about once the cabinet's formed that we'll reach out to and try and get all ministries at the table with us to have the conversation.
Yeah, because I do believe Cabinet has that authority through order in council, right, to deal with emergent situations, emergency power, and I think behoves us on behalf of the citizens to do our darndest to get that sorted. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Other discussion, questions for Kevin? Thank you, Kevin. Next, 13 diary. There's nothing in the diary. 14 consent calendar. Does anybody want to lift anything from the consent calendar? Get a motion to accept the consent calendar. Councillor McDonald, second Councillor Sudnick. Discussion. I'll call this motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried. 15, no media here for medium questions. 16, recess to close. 16.1, resolution to move into the meeting of council closed to the public Agenda item 5.1, section 92B, the consideration of information received and held in confidence relating to negotiations between the municipality and provincial government. Agenda item 6.1, section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal services that are at their preliminary stages. Councillor Kemp, second. Councillor McDonald, call that motion to vote. Vote is closed. It's carried.